let us watch the Madseason video. This video, boys, it's a long one, okay? It's a 2-hour, like, it's basically a movie. If you don't know who Madseason is, I don't know who you are, okay? I don't know what you've been sleeping under, what kind of rock you've been sleeping under. But he's basically like a big, massive WoW content creator or former. And I think this, supposedly, I don't know if it is, but it's apparently like his last video, like his last WoW video. That might not be true, but that's what I'm under the impression under. Like, he goes out with a massive video, basically, right? The video is called World of Warcraft Pandora's Box. And it's 2 hours long, guys. So, get your popcorn, get your little cozy blankets, and we'll start watching this video here, okay, guys? It's gonna be a long one. So, strap in, boys. Let's see what this is all about. Oh, shoot. Play this Dr. Disrespect stream.
An obsession? Sure, but the question is, does the international addiction to an internet game represent a danger? Maybe, but there is also no indication that anything can slow the explosive growth of the intoxicating game called World of Warcraft.
Yep. Pandora's Box.
Shut the fucking DKP miners! What the fuck was that shit?
Dude. Edited by Madseason show.
And by the way, you don't want that to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
Intro music by White Bat Audio.
You guys take care of us, man. Yeah, you guys really take care of us.
Oh, I gang views all day, every day.
Animation by Tarpon
Incredible 16 hours a day. His mother says his personality has changed and that he's become moody and violent, and his addiction is tearing the family apart.
Goddamn WoW gamers, man.
But our actions are gonna matter more than any of these.
His hair is like so smooth.
Alright, thumbs up. Ready, guys? Let's do this. Oh my god, I just ran in. The power level.
WoW hops!
Where
Oh my god!
all the good loot, and they get
I
all
think
the
he
great
plays Hearthstone
experience.
nowadays. Oh my god, it's so nostalgic seeing. Basically, like, I guess a lot of you guys as well is like grown up with WoW. It's like since your childhood, basically. You know, World of Warcraft, vanilla. There it is. Okay, let's see what this is all about.
In the world of MMORPGs, you'll scarcely find anyone who hasn't heard of, if not played, the World of Warcraft.
Yep.
Released in 2004, it would quickly begin to make a name for itself, garnering worldwide praise for its innovation, accessibility, and the closeness to the community by its developer, Blizzard Entertainment. Both celebrated and condemned for its addictiveness, in the span of a few short months, it would not only become the most popular of the MMORPG genre, but also set the standard for all of those that would follow in its footsteps. Many would try, and over the course of 15 years, few would gain even a fraction of the player base of the seemingly unstoppable.
It's quite crazy when you think about it, how big it really was back in the day. Like, back in the heyday of where WoW really took off, it was just so much, not even just MMOs, it was like the game, right? It was crazy compared to now. It's
Giant.
God.
Today, though, a much different picture is painted.
Yeah,
what was
and now it's
initially
like
considered inspirational in the world of game development now leaves behind a controversial history marred with what many describe
now
as
it's frowned
betrayal,
upon.
deception, and squandered potential, leaving many asking the question, how? A snapshot of history of a world created within a world, a microcosm of mayhem, A virtual playground for humanity to show each other their best and their worst.
Oh my god, this video
this is
too.
The story of Blizzard Entertainment and their iconic MMORPG, the World of Warcraft.
It is crazy though when you think about it, how popular it is, and then now it's like, it's almost like at a point where like if you play WoW, it's like frowned upon, right? So it's definitely a very different perspective nowadays than it had in the beginning, because it was like the game. God. Okay, I'm not gonna pause a lot, guys. I just want to add some points sometimes, but it's a long video, so pausing will be minimum. What is this? Remember, turn your computer off before okay. Sorry. That was a valid pause because we had to read that.
At the dawn of the new millennium, the online world was growing rapidly. The intellect of man and the advancements of technology combined had bestowed upon the world the creation of the internet by Al Gore. News of a new Star Wars movie was spreading. The storyboard for The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, had been completed. Nerd culture was about to reach critical mass.
Yep.
And Bill Clinton did not have sexual relations with that woman. And so entered the massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG for short. The creation of the first MMO can be traced all the way back to the 70s, depending on your definition and standards. They would be text-based. Though they had existed for decades, it was only near the new millennia that they would attract a sizable player base.
That is so...
Although varying in implementation, they all shared the central idea of an online, persistent world to be shared with players from all over the globe. A genre unique...
There's something so cool about seeing these old games with these old graphics. It's... Even though I haven't played a lot of them, like most of them, it's still sick, man. Like,
in the sense that there is no planned end.
It really is.
No credits rolled nor thanks for playing. Game content would be added as long as there are players playing, and the journey would only end when the player decided that it was over. A concept that was remarkably foreign to many at the time. In these early years, many would try their hand in breaking through the genre, and overall, it would contain a niche audience. Some were beginning to make a name for themselves though, such as Origin Systems' leap into the online persistent world with Ultima Online, an isometric fantasy game memorable for its PvP combat in particular. Mythic Entertainment, who would later develop Warhammer Online, took their shot with the Dark Age of Camelot, a third-person take on Arthurian lore mixed with Norse mythology and high fantasy. Star Wars would make their debut into the world of
This was like a complete flop, I remember, right? If I recall correctly,
with the 2003 release, the Star Wars Galaxies, an MMO with a more heavy focus on community and sandbox gameplay. And most prolific at the time was EverQuest in 1999 by Variant Interactive and 99 Studios, decrowning the previously reigning champion, Ultima Online. Just 24 hours after launch, it would quickly become the most subscribed MMORPG at
10K!
10,000 subscribers.
Wow!
Yeah, really. 10,000 was the most subscribed MMORPG at the time.
Dude, 10K subs was like a massive subscriber base for an MMO back then. But now, if like, you know, XQC falls below 50K subs on his Twitch stream, it's like Omega lol, right? Like, what the hell? It's crazy how much the times have changed like that. That is ridiculous. Like,
it would eventually peak at over 500,000 years after
Internet
its
is
launch,
massive.
but as history has shown, this would yet be a fraction of the potential that was hidden within the genre. A potential
Never played it.
that had yet to be realized.
Never did. There it is. That's the game.
The MMO was on the rise,
Malgor.
and the time to strike was nigh, and in the background, a beast was stirring, silently observing the strengths, the weaknesses, the successes, and the failures of the then relatively unexplored genre. Blizzard, at this point, already had established themselves as innovators with their Diablo, StarCraft, and Warcraft series.
How massive was all their games back then? Diablo 2 was insane, right? Like StarCraft 2, they were also insanely good, all the games they made back then.
The latter being a real-time strategy game.
They were huge.
In a fantasy world of orcs,
like massive.
elves, magic, and adventure. and having seen the success of other fantasy-based games such as EverQuest, the table was set. After halting development on an abandoned project, a small team of developers were left in limbo and were searching for inspiration on their next game. They had the IP, they had the funding, and most importantly, the timing.
Yep. 2001.
September 2nd, 2001,
Alpha footage.
long before Blizzard was big enough to hold their own convention.
Like, this alpha footage back then was crazy, right? I remember back when I really got into, like, World of Warcraft was, like, at one point where I was playing, like, Warcraft 3, and then my brother told me, like, they're coming out with the new game where you can see it, like, down from the perspective, and we zoomed, you know, you can zoom in Warcraft 3, and it's like, okay, you're gonna be playing like this. And I was like, what? Like, how is that even possible? How can you run around in a world like that? That's like absolutely crazy. Okay, I think we found the thumbnail now, guys. Let's keep watching.
They held a panel at London's European Computer Trade Show, and it was then that the public for the first time saw the world of Warcraft.
This, I remember seeing this too. I kind of wish it, I don't know, this looks kind of cool, man. Even just this looks kind of like, oh shoot, I'm gonna play this.
They made it clear this was like not orcs, the sequel to
it's like orcs and humans like fighting in Westfall.
Popular RTS series at the time, but rather something completely different. Players would transition from controlling pre-made heroes and progressing through a campaign to creating their own heroes and making their own stories. The game would be multiplayer on a massive scale, bringing together fans of not only the Warcraft series, but of MMOs as a whole. The reaction, however, was mixed. Some waited with eager anticipation, trying to imagine their beloved series making its leap into the massively multiplayer setting, and many were upset at the abrupt change of focus, preferring Blizzard to concentrate on what was proven to work, instead of taking a gamble into unfettered territory. The idea of paying a monthly fee to continue playing was a hard pill to swallow at the time, especially by Blizzard fans.
That's crazy how they made that work, though, with the sub-based thing. Like,
fans who had grown accustomed to the one-time purchase models set standard by the company. Work would continue on the project, however, and the very first interview would be claimed by the Computer Gaming World magazine. By this time, EverQuest was the clear reigning champion, but the genre as a whole had one fatal flaw, and that's the learning curve. XP loss, gear loss.
Oh yeah, I remember going to Blockbuster to buy game time cards. I don't know if I can find this right now, but I actually have a game card, like a disc with the game card thing in it somewhere. I saved it from way back in the day. It's very sticky now though, but yeah. I have it.
And even permanent character death were commonplace in nearly every game of the genre, and combined with the large time investment in playing, it cultivated a very niche and hardcore community, and the everyday casual player would quickly succumb to the intense difficulty and seek entertainment from other, more forgiving games. It was a genre with a focus on character progression, with death penalties centering around character regression and a steep learning curve to go along with it. However, this transitionary period would prove to be a key moment where players for the first time would leave.
I love this game. I remember being scared out of my mind going in Hyrule Field for the first time and it turning night and like those like skeletons comes out from the ground. I love Zelda, man. I never played Majora's Mask, but I played Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker. Oh,
single player games that looked like this into this online sprawling world. They were incomparable to each other, and although it's funny to think now, it was an intimidating thing. The time investment was, and still is, incredibly high. You had to have a computer, you had to have a good enough graphics card to run it, you had to have internet, and you had to pay a subscription. The amount of hurdles standing between the average person and the game were already high, and combined with the unforgiving gameplay of the landmark titles representing the genre, it was just too much for the average person. But it was this person, this untapped market of new and casual players that Blizzard would set their sights on. World of Warcraft took a completely different style of approach. During a time when XP loss was the bare minimum penalty for dying, World of Warcraft made you simply run back to your corpse.
One of the great
WoW was super casual. Like nowadays, you look at like classic WoW, whatever, as like super grindy. But like it was viewed as a super casual game back in the day compared to like RuneScape and EverQuest and like all those other MMOs. WoW was super casual, very casual. Even though there was rank 14 grind and everything.
Great things here is that when you die, and death is an inevitability in all these games, it's really not that big of a deal. All other online RPGs make death a really bad thing because dying should be bad, right? Well, in World of Warcraft, pretty much all that happens is you sit out for a bit. You respawn back at a graveyard and you run and get your corpse and you respawn. You don't lose experience points, you don't lose your items or any of that stuff.
When hitting the max level took years in other games, World of Warcraft it took months for most players. And when systems were complicated and confusing, requiring external literature to understand, World of Warcraft...
The game was just easy to understand. I think that's why WoW is so well received, because it's so easy to understand for most people, right? Like, you can just get into it and you learn it fast. It's just a broad audience can understand the game very well. I do wonder what would have happened, though, if WoW never would have taken off, right? If we would have gotten some amazing other, like, MMO or, like, another game. It's an interesting thing to think about. Obviously, like, that's, like, what if, right? But, you know, you never know.
Warcraft systems were relatively straightforward, and when character stat and template choices were often permanent,
we would be happy.
World of Warcraft featured costly but reversible methods of character progression and customization. In other games, you had areas designed for large groups of high-level players, referred to as raids, but they were commonly out in the open world, which resulted in having to compete against one another for kill credit. Due to this, there was a greater sense of urgency to complete the raid in its entirety in one sitting before any other guild had the chance to catch up and bring unwanted competition. Marathon sessions of guilds setting up 24-hour shifts was a common strategy to maintain dominion of these raids, in many cases to the detriment of the health of the players. This Final Fantasy XI boss was engaged for 18 hours until players were forced to quit after they began to faint.
Members of the party started to become physically ill. After such a prolonged period of gaming, they began to faint and vomit. What? I've never gotten that. Even when I was ranking, I was not close to that. Like, Jesus. I remember when I played Classic as well, like, you know, Asurgos, like the world bosses, there would be like shifts to like make sure you get like the spawn for the world boss. So there would be like a shift of like 6 people or so that would like, you know, swap every like 8 hours or 6 hours to watch for the boss to spawn. It's like, God.
And vomit. Though this boss in particular was nerfed shortly after the incident, this was the state of the endgame for most MMOs in these early stages. However, World of Warcraft had been one of the first MMOs to standardize instanced raids, where players and guilds could create their own unique raid instances,
that's crazy,
resetting on a weekly basis. And as for the raid boss...
So this wasn't normal before WoW. Open world bosses are cool. So it's strange that they went with this way then. I guess that what made WoW as well, right?
Bosses themselves, although today seen as archaic and simplistic, at the time they were quite advanced. In a genre where raid bosses boiled down to having a unique name with a higher health pool and increased damage, World of Warcraft would add unique, and often at the time, complex mechanics that required teamwork and thought to overcome, which in turn would become one of the game's major selling points.
Complex
mechanics. The worlds
mechanics.
had NPCs, but were commonly static, whereas the world of Azeroth felt more alive with dynamic NPCs going about their daily lives.
At the time, it was complex.
What it didn't invent, it improved. MMOs were in a constant state of almost theirs, and World of Warcraft was the first one to bridge that gap and bring it into a more mainstream audience, and it reaped the rewards because of that. The game would continue development throughout the years, with teasers being released in the form of magazine interviews and trailers, keeping the curious onlooker abreast on its direction. And after a long alpha and beta testing period, the moment of truth came on November 23rd, 2004.
There it is. Oh. Oh. Go to hell, Blizzard. 900 plus Q. Oh my god. Yep, that's the real launch experience. There it is. That's what it's all about.
Appealing to the casual gamer worked well. A little too well. Blizzard in no way was prepared for the frenzy of players eager to get into the world. Disconnects, lag, and rollbacks would persist heavily for the opening months, and still consistently through the next couple of years. Forums daily would be
Blizzard says enjoy the lag.
filled with outrage, demands for a refund, and even threats of lawsuits. The miraculous thing about it, though, is that it didn't even
Wait,
seem
what did this say? Video card recommendations, $100 to $200. Bro, nowadays you can't even get like a graphics card for 1K, man. Holy cow.
threats of lawsuits. The miraculous thing about it, though, is that it didn't even seem to slow its growth. The launch today is looked at as disastrous, and yet still, people came back again and again. How can a game that's playable maybe 50% of the time hold such a demand? Well, it's because it was that good. Years of development had paid off, as World of Warcraft quickly became a hit, almost immediately dwarfing all competition at the time and robbing them of their player bases.
They're blasting.
It was the vampire of the MMO industry at its release,
Sucking it all.
and it would suck the life force out of every single previously mentioned staple of the genre.
But there was one unfortunate thing. The unfortunate thing was it launched right when WoW launched. So WoW brought the whole industry down, not just us. Every online game out there went down as soon as WoW went out. WoW was like a huge succubus of players. Went over.
That's crazy. Like, it wasn't just MMOs. It was like the game, right? Like, God, everybody played it back then. I remember people being like afraid of telling other people in middle school that they played WoW. But everybody played WoW. There were so many people who did it. They just didn't want to talk about it. Like, it was like, they were like, scared. I remember there was like some girls in my class that was literally scared of having like it known that they played the game, you know? And guys too, for that matter. It was a crazy time back then with that kind of stuff.
Over there and drove into WoW. And it drove all our numbers down.
60 levels of progression and a world of challenges awaited the eager player base, and there would be many landmark moments just waiting to be claimed. Players rushed to the max level, and the title of the world first level 60 went to a player named Zenith,
a troll
rogue on the Stormreaver server on December 3rd, 2004, a little less than 2 weeks after release. By today's standards...
Wait, that's fast! In 2 weeks after release? That's actually fast. He must have played like non-stop. No guides, fresh game, with all the lag and everything.
Back then,
and the PC and like, you know, that's incredibly fast. I didn't even think my hardcore character after like 3 weeks.
No-life nerd, as onlookers weren't shy of expressing. On January 30th, 2005,
if I was a beta player,
would see its first raid cleared with the death of Anixia, taken down by the Guild Ruined on the Proudmoore server, and many players for the first time got to see the famed epic quality items that she hoarded.
That's so cool. Dude, I'm so happy.
Blizzard would spend the following years perfecting their craft. As their subscriber base increased, so too did their budget, and more servers would quickly be added to support the booming player base. New patches would
It's almost like that never changes, man. Whenever when Classic came out, and they had like, oh, we'll just add like 5 servers, and then like they had to like times 10 the amount of servers. It's like a reoccurring thing that they do, man.
Not only release new raid tiers, but also systems, items, and much more. And in May of the same year, the subscriber base would see its biggest surge for the next decade.
And CBC came out as well. Oh.
Okay, guys.
I'm sorry to ruin your day, guys. The Leroy clip was scripted. Sorry, I had to say it.
These eggs have given us a lot of trouble in the past. Does anybody need anything off this guy?
It was scripted.
One of the earliest videos to go viral in the World of Warcraft was created by the guild Pals for Life. The guild was strategizing on how to clear out a particularly tricky room in the upper Blackrock Spire raid.
I think it's a pretty good plan. We should be able to pull it off this time. What do you think, Abdul? Can you give me a number crunch real quick?
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm coming up with 32.3
repeating, of course. Percentage of survival. Oh, it's a lot better than we usually do. Alright, thumbs up. Ready, guys?
Let's do this.
Dude. He became so famous because of that.
Save him! Oh jeez, stick to the plane! Oh Jesus, let's go.
Oh jeez.
Stick to the plane!
And in the midst of the conversation, a group member, Leroy, charges in prematurely with reckless abandon, causing the death of the entire group.
I can't move, am I lagging, guys? I can't move! What the hell? I can't aim! Oh my god. The eggs keep spawning! More spawning!
It's so laggy. Look at him, he's not even doing anything. He's just running around.
I got it.
He's like pulling more.
Oh my god. God damn
He's just pulling more mobs.
The video was later revealed to be staged,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, it caught on like wildfire, and it was shared across multiple websites
Raffle, Leroy, then the whole percentage of survival. What the F is that?
and forums,
Did he raffle?
making it one of the first videos for World of Warcraft to gain viral popularity.
Look at that.
Onlookers were intrigued. Word of mouth proved to be a prolific advertising
I'm
vehicle.
more of a Lamau person myself. I like a nice Lamau. You know, like this. Or if I'm really funny, I do this one. This is the one I do. I do that one. I just spam my keyboard and then click it. That's when you know it's a good one. You know? I just like spam my keyboard like that. That's when you made a really funny one. Okay.
Vehicle for the game. It's hard to say today just how many people watched the video, as some of the uploads
It was funny
have been
though.
lost.
Funny video.
The original upload on Warcraft Movies today sits at nearly 19 million views,
That's
and
a
the original
lot.
YouTube mirror reached at least 46 million before it was taken down. And surviving mirrors today sit at a total combined count of around 24 million.
8 million.
Regardless, it's by far the most viewed Warcraft-related video, even to this day,
That is
over
crazy.
15 years later. It was so popular, in fact, that it was later featured as a question in the trivia show Jeopardy! Just a few months later in November.
Really?
This role-playing game, out in 2004,
Really?
returns to the world of Azeroth, where heroes like Leroy Jenkins do battle. And that would be the world of Warcraft.
Oh, no,
Pathetic.
They didn't know. They probably knew, they were just too scared to say it because it was not cool being a nerd back then. They didn't want to go back to their family and then knowing that.
The Leroy craze wasn't the only phenomenon to spawn from the game,
the
though.
blood thing from our
September
car?
of 2005
Oh, yeah.
saw the release of the Zul'Gurub upgrade, the final encounter of which
Oh,
was
yeah.
a boss named Hakar.
I
He
remember
had an
this.
ability called Corrupted Blood, which dealt some damage to a player, and if they were to stand too close to another, it would spread to that person.
This
In
was
a contained
sick.
environment,
The
it's
fact that
just
this
another
happened.
raid mechanic. That is, until one player, intentionally or otherwise, managed to create a virtual pandemic that spread across every single server. The mechanic had one fatal flaw. By getting a pet companion afflicted with the disease and then dismissing it, it would persist when the pet is summoned once more. This person did just that, but in a crowded area, and spread the affliction to every nearby player and
That's so
NPC, and as long as there were living hosts, there was no escape. Entire cities became infected by the plague.
All these players are hardcore players, guys. They're all doing the Road to Rack channel back in the day.
Word quickly spread, and
Yeah.
other players
they all
intentionally
have to
started
lead.
spreading the disease. Ironforge, Stormwind, Orgrimmar, every major capital city was a death hub and was uninhabitable by lower-level players. The spread would continue to go on for days until Blizzard eventually
That's funny,
hotfixed
though.
the disease. But the resulting chaos remains to this day to be one of the most memorable moments in the game's history, and has even been used in real-world research of the spread and reaction of contagious diseases.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really easy to be an asshole behind a keyboard and get away with it. Shows just how well shit clings to the asshole. Example, Ashkira and his band of dingleberries. You are you added to the camped list. Congratulations, you have stooped lower than any other guild in MMO history. Oh, forums. You're fucking trash. You are not good enough to lick the dog shit from Becker's boots, you fucking degenerate. Sorry excuses for mentally retarded humans. I hope Ashera's I'm not gonna read that. Then at the funeral, some guy pushes the coffin over and runs around slapping, screaming, "Lol owned." Then releases a video. What the hell?
Though there are many memorable landmark moments in the game's history, some are more controversial than others.
Oh, you think
in 2006, on the Illidan server, a player by the name...
I bet he lost like an item from Rag or something, man. For those who knew her, it was one of the nice people you could meet, and she was just stroke and passed away. Oh god.
Phajin passed away suddenly from a stroke, and in memoriam of one of her favorite activities, fishing, her guild had decided to host an in-game funeral service to pay one final tribute to her. There were two problems, though. It was publicly advertised on the Realm forums, and Illidan was a PvP server where players of the opposite faction could freely attack one another. A guild, Serenity Now, saw the thread, and they felt that they would join in to pay tribute, but in a very different way. Having snuck through a nearby tunnel leading into the zone, an entire raid team prepared to crash the funeral. As players lined up to pay tribute to their friend, the raid quickly closed in on the location, and to make matters worse, in an effort to roleplay, many of the attendees had unequipped their armor and weapons, leaving them
like a slaughter, man.
The surprise onslaught.
It's a slaughter, man. It's like super spurgs.
The funeral was quickly and easily dispatched. Serenity Now would become infamous on their server, and the crash still stands today as one of the most controversial in-game events in its entire history. All of these moments serve a crucial role in the telling of the history of the game, and they would serve as a reminder of the reasons why it became such a success. It's due not only to its own merits, but perhaps even more drastically by the community that the world of Azeroth was comprised of. This world, however, was about to change.
Ooh. TBC. TBC's gonna release.
How many of you have played World of Warcraft?
I remember they advertised this TBC with like aerial combat. I remember back as a kid, I was so hyped for the aerial combat that they were introducing, and it just never came. I was ecstatic about that. It was like on the back cover of the thing you bought as well, like the thing.
Due to the success of World of Warcraft, Blizzard for the first time held their own event, a convention centered solely around Blizzard games named BlizzCon.
That was Wrath?
This was
okay, was that Wrath? Okay, sorry, I just remember it, okay, back in the day. Was that Wrath? If it was Wrath, that's fine, but I just remember seeing that at the back of the thing, and they had like a picture of like some aerial combat. It was pretty cool. Okay, if that was Wrath, that's my bad then.
Was and remains to be a unique aspect of the developer to hold a personalized convention tailored to their products, a form of celebration of not only the games that they're creating, but also the already massive community that they've built. The strong focus on the community would be something that Blizzard would become known for.
That's called art design? No, it literally said on the box, aerial combat. It was not like an art, it literally said on the box. I remember it being a big thing.
And it created a loyalty of sorts from the players.
I remember that.
It felt like it was a big more than a game. It was a community of people sharing their combined love and passion for the worlds.
Yeah, look at this. It's not just like a thing. Look at this. Yeah, exactly. This is Wintergrasp. Engage in aerial dogfights with flying mounts and new gnome-engineered planes. I specifically remember that. Yeah, there it is, I guess. So that was Wrath. And I was so hyped for this, I recall. Yeah, there it is. Thank you, Avenger, for the link.
That they created.
You guys take care of us, man. You guys really take care of us.
Diablo,
waiting outside the store.
Warcraft. Fans from around the world would plan vacations around it.
Oh my
Longtime friends and guildmates would meet each other.
It was
in
a different
person
time
for the
back
first
then.
Time, and
it
BlizzCon
really was.
As a whole would become a very crucial part of Blizzard's identity from this point forward.
Like a whole different world.
The very first convention, held in October of 2005, a bombshell announcement was unveiled. The world of Warcraft is about to get bigger with the release of its first expansion, the Burning Crusade.
You are not prepared.
Oh shoot! There it is, the Burning Crusade.
The expansion boasted what players had come to expect from the world of Warcraft and more. They would step into the world of the Outland and progressed through 10 more character levels, new zones, talents, dungeons, spells, raids, races, a profession, a new PvP system, and much more. It would add on to and improve in just about every aspect of the game. But it's still 2005, and there's a lot of game left to conquer before players began worrying about their foray into the Outland. There were dragons to kill and DKP to acquire.
Oh god, DKP.
Odd groups got left, even groups got right.
No.
That means 1, 3, 5,
How many
7
good memes
left,
was there from
2,
back in the day?
4, 6, 8 right.
In the game,
All
you
these
had
memes,
casual,
man.
hardcore, and everything in between, and there were some who took it even further beyond.
No reason to lose the main tank, and I am blaming you, because I blame myself. I
you for
can
your
fucking do it.
patronage.
Everyone can do it. Do it right. This is bullshit.
Videos of a more serious or angry nature would start to spring up at this point.
Look at the rogues topping the meters, boys. I'm proud.
Those of raid leaders chewing out members for failing and properly performing the mechanics of a boss fight.
Well,
Crushing was fair than Zurich.
Who the fuck was that?
Oh, retard alert!
Crush him! What the fuck? Whelps! Left side! Even side! Many whelps! Now handle it!
Thank you for the sub.
The most prolific of which being Dives, the raid leader of the guild, Wipe Club. Anixia at this point had been slain by numerous guilds, and after some unsuccessful attempts, one of the members decided to record what would later become one of the biggest meltdowns in history.
Yep.
The Anixia wipe animation.
That's a fucking 50 DKP minus! What the fuck was
Jesus.
that shit?
Much like Leroy, the animation would quickly become popular, and it highlighted the frustrating side of coordinating 40 people and clearing the challenging raids.
Don't play like you're just fucking going through the motions. You'll get your goddamn loot eventually. God damn it!
Dude, he's pissed.
Fucking bullshit!
Yeah, I know. Well, we're all gonna get attacked because we have no warlock here. Nice job, you fucking idiot!
Hey, shut the fuck up! You stupid fuck! Stop!
These videos would paint players in a much less flattering light, as many people would become so obsessed that they would shirk real-life responsibilities and fall out of contact with friends, quit work or school, and in the most extreme cases cause harm to themselves or others. In Korea of June of 2005, the 4-month-old child of a couple would suffocate when left unsupervised for several hours as the parents were playing World of Warcraft in an internet cafe. The phrase World of Warcraft was coined, shedding light on the dark side of video game addiction, particularly that of MMOs and the consequences.
It is scary though, right? Because you can really lose yourself in a game like this, right? Because it's such like a game where you go fully into it, right? So you can just lose hours and days just grinding and farming, right? Because you are sort of living a second life in a way, right? Through your character, right? Like a lot of people are living and playing that character to like maybe forget other stuff in real life, or for you know, to go somewhere where they can be something different, right? So it can be a scary thing for sure, man.
That the media was not shy of reporting, as World of Warcraft,
oh, this setup! Look at the setup.
Would find itself at the center.
The webcam on the speakers and like all the Halo statue there, the little like lava lamp, dude. This is so cozy. There's something so cozy about this.
Center of this war against video game addiction.
Computer games, he's playing them an incredible 16 hours a day. His mother says his personality has changed and that he's become moody and violent, and his addiction is tearing the family apart.
To many, it was more than a game.
Oh,
it was a virtual life with the graphical interface. It attracted people from all walks of life and blended them together in the chaos of this online world. News of the Burning Crusade remained to be scarce, as it was still under NDA in the Friends and Family Alpha. A blog post teasing new features would be shared.
I was hyped about Blood Elves, man.
Scarcely,
they were
but
cool.
Otherwise, it was still largely a mystery.
My first character in TBC was a Blood Elf that I first leveled.
Outside of what was shared at the 2005 BlizzCon, the excitement was palpable, and players from all over the world couldn't wait to get into the Outland. The beta test for the expansion started not too long after, as players got to discover and explore its features, and shortly after, World of Warcraft would become the focus of the cartoon series South Park, with their Make Love, Not Warcraft episode.
That episode is
detailed the boys' fight against a hacker antagonist and
That's
their
a good
struggle
episode.
with video game addiction.
That's a big boy, isn't he?
Though on release, it was an instant success. Many years later, series co-creator Trey Parker detailed his worries with the episode, revealing that he even tried to get it pulled as he feared that it simply wasn't funny. But as history has shown, the episode would become an instant success, and despite the fact that the series at this point now has over 300 episodes, it remains to be one of their most popular to this day.
Looks like you're about to get pwned.
Animation was actually good though in the WoW scenes and the when like Stan is talking and everything. It's actually not bad. He got pwned. Dude, look at this. How hype is this though? Like an IRL launch at the store, you're waiting outside.
January 16th finally came.
That's so
and
hype.
It marked the beginning of a new era. The official end of vanilla World of Warcraft.
It really was a different time.
People lined up outside of stores and tents in the freezing cold. Launch parties were held.
This is cool.
And the community was stronger than ever and pulled together with their one shared trait: their fear of...
Man, I'm like... Dude, my nostalgia is like overcoming right now. It's crazy, man. I don't know, man. There's just something so different about those times, right? With all the late waiting in line and like... all that thing, right? Like it's cool. It really is a different thing.
Women, their collective love for the game. At this point, it had amassed roughly 8 million subscribers by
Social
the expansion's release, never once reporting a loss.
Look at that though. Look how erect that like chart is. That is crazy. Like all the other MMOs are down here, and they were like, and WoW just took off. That is crazy.
Holding on to the lion's share of the market. In the background stirred some serious competition, however. Mythic Entertainment, who developed the Dark Age of Camelot, sought to compete against Blizzard with an MMORPG adaptation of the renowned Warhammer series.
I played that a little bit.
Similar fantasy setting, holding orcs, magic, elves, and wizards. Many thought it to be the direct competitor to World of Warcraft, and deemed it to be one of the first of many would-be WoW killers during the time. Another such game was The Age of Conan, The Hyborian Adventures.
Oh my god. I played this for a while. This game, Age of Conan, had the most like scuffed battle system where like every time you had to use an ability, you had to use a combo on your keyboard on like you had to go like left, right, up, down, left, right. It was like you typed in a passcode every single time you did like an ability. It was pretty interesting, but I played it for like a little while, I recall. It was very scuffed, but yeah, it was fun though for a little while.
Developed by Funcom, who is mostly known in the MMO community for Anarchy Online in 2001, its selling points would be impeccable graphics at the time, and a new and fresh combat system in a dark and visceral world, featuring the fatality mechanic, where players could execute each other in brutal fashion, often described as the Mortal Kombat of MMORPGs. And The Lord of the Rings Online by Turbine was also in development, an MMO of one of the most celebrated franchises in nerd culture history, certainly posed as a serious threat to Blizzard at the time. Though these contenders would be far off from release, the competition was beginning to get fierce.
I feel like every time an MMO has been made from like a video game, it's always kind of flopped, right? Because everybody wants to be Frodo, everybody wants to be like, you know, the Jedi Master. Like you can't be like the main like protagonist in MMO. You have to be like a nobody, right? Like you have to like work your way up like that. So it's like whenever you make a game off of like a movie, it's always really hard. If it's like an online game, right? Because who doesn't want to play Frodo, right? Who doesn't want to do that? Because everybody wants to be that guy. He carries the goddamn ring to Mordor, right? And like who doesn't want to be Anakin or whatever? Like it's how it is, right? So it's just whenever they do like that, they make it bad. You can't be the protagonist in the MMO. You cannot. So that's how it is, right? Can I get a true in the chat, boys?
And to stave them off, the Burning Crusade had to be as exceptional as its predecessor. Months and months of doomsaying was put to the test. Did the Burning Crusade kill the World of Warcraft? Of course, the answer is no. The expansion was a major success, and the subscription base rose even more rapidly as players explored the dangerous reaches of the Outland. The classes evolved, and the gap between them was lessened, while still retaining the features that made them special. The raids were more challenging, the bosses more complex, and offering more to conquer to the ever-growing subscriber base. And the raiding scene itself proved to be even more difficult for players than what they had encountered in the base game, with many lists today naming a plethora of Burning Crusade bosses as the hardest in the game's history, even over 14 years later, with some of them going unkilled by 99% of the player base until Blizzard intervened themselves to make them easier. The expansion today is remembered for having an extensive process for gaining entry to the raids called Attunement. A large series of story-based quests served as an alternate form of character progression. Players would rarely find themselves.
This doesn't even take that long. This looks a lot worse than it really is. Yeah, Mauru. Yeah. It just looks a lot worse than it is. But it is, I think it is kind of cool having like a little thing to do for the raid, like to prepare for it, right? I think it's kind of sick in a way.
With nothing to do.
It's not sick if you have to do it on 16 characters, but you know what I mean.
The PvP system had evolved to be more competitive with the new arena mode, where players create custom teams and battle in small skill matches to the death, setting the stage for future competitive events in Blizzard's attempt to gain a foothold into the growing esports scene.
Competitive events where they literally pay their competitors dog shit money compared to any other like competitive game in the world. Dude, what the hell, man? Like, there's so many like talks of like WoW esports athletes, like literally like that they cannot even pay their rent, man. It's so rough, man. Like the prize pools are so bad, like compared to like Dota and League and all those games, right? I feel like they should have capitalized more on that. I guess it is hard making an MMO into like an esport because you're always going to be at a disadvantage with the gear and stuff like that, but I don't know, man. It's one of those things. I guess a lot of those like big arena players or whatever that was like in tournaments, they grew a stream and then became super popular and from that, right? So I guess that's a way of doing it.
The Alliance for the first time got to experience a new class to them, the Shaman, and for the Horde, the Paladin.
Yeah, for tournaments for sure,
with two new races added to the game, the Draenei and the Blood Elf. 5-man dungeons rose back to the forefront with the advent of the more challenging heroic difficulty.
Oh, okay, so yeah, they used like a tournament realm. Okay, but like the point still stands, right? It's just I feel like they should have capitalized more on the esport thing, right? Because I think that's what made League of Legends partially what made League of Legends that huge, right? And even Dota has like a massive esports scene.
Was packed with features and upgrades in its design, and stands as one of Blizzard's most critically acclaimed releases even to this day.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Rings also saw its release in 2007 to serve as competition for World of Warcraft, and although receiving favorable...
This could have probably been really good if they just took the universe and like, I don't know how to do it really, but like, obviously everybody wants to play Frodo or like Sam or like, you know, some of those people, and you can't have it like that, right?
Reviews at the time, it couldn't compare to the size and scope of WoW, selling under 200,000 copies in the first months of release, and dwindling shortly thereafter. The game does still run today, supported by a niche community, and is hovering around 40,000 active players at the time of this video. So, the Burning Crusade pressed on, undaunted, and in the following BlizzCon in August, the next expansion, The Wrath of the Lich King, was announced.
God, Wrath was like the peak for me. For me, Wrath
Players
was
were
the peak.
teased of the land of Northrend, where they had once visited in the events of Warcraft 3. It's here where...
I don't even think it was because of the game. I think it's because, like, literally all my friends back in the day played Wrath. Everybody loved it. The game was popular. You got to face the big, like, Arthas, which is like the big character from Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne. It was just everything, right? Like, the game was popular. Everybody loved the game. Blizzard was amazing. You didn't have to like be like, what is it called? Be like afraid to tell people that you played the game, right? Like nowadays, it's almost like you have to be ashamed if you enjoy a WoW game anymore, or like a Blizzard game, right? It was a different time, man. It really was.
where they would face off against Arthas Menethil as the Lich King. 10 more levels, a new class, the Death Knight, new zones, and siege vehicle combat were just a few of the many new features teased at the convention, and due to the success of the Burning Crusade, there was little question if it would be just as good. 2008 came, and on the 1-year anniversary of the release of the Burning Crusade, World of Warcraft hit a landmark 10 million subscribers, absolutely dwarfing any and all competition. The up-and-coming contender, The Age of Conan, saw its release in May of 2008 and received generally positive reviews by the media, and had sold over 1 million copies by the end of its release month.
I think... I don't know where. Wait, one sec. Do I have it here? One sec. I think I have it. Do I have it? I don't. You know what I do have, though? A World of Warcraft game card. 60 days prepaid game card. That's what I do have. I even have a guest pass. Look at that. If you can see the code, you get 10 days for free. I don't know if it's used. Yeah, well, there it is. Okay, let's keep watching.
Though ultimately, the game had failed to retain this impressive surge of subscribers. Although reviewers worldwide had praised the game,
I liked it in the beginning.
Condemned it as being unfinished and rushed, as subscriptions quickly declined. And just 1 year later...
Age of Conan... I don't know if you guys have played it, but Age of Conan was really fun, but you just ran out of stuff to do really fast. But I really liked it in the beginning. It was good. But then it's just like, it's sort of a little bit like, for me, like New World, right? It's just, you just ran out of stuff to do really fast, I feel like. And it was very repetitive too, right?
Funcom would perform a fatality on 31 out of its 42 servers.
Good game, though. Good game.
Much like The Lord of the Rings Online, the game still holds a dedicated yet niche following, by and large falling short of being the WoW killer that many predicted that it would be.
Yeah. Activision Blizzard merger official. Oh, here's the pit store.
In a bombshell announcement at the height of the game's popularity, the power of the dark side could be resisted no longer.
Here's the downfall, boys.
Company, Vivendi,
get your nostalgia glasses off and your happiness, guys. It's time to be Madge, okay? From here on in, we're just Madge.
Announced a merger with Activision, already having gained a reputation for excessive monetization and driving franchises and developers to an early grave. Many were dismayed at the news, fearing that the same would become true for their beloved franchises, including the World of Warcraft. Along with EA, they would gain the reputation of exploiting the player base to the fullest extent, and spearheads today one of the largest focus on cash shops and pay-to-win game design. And just 1 year later, in September of 2009, Activision Blizzard would release the paid faction change service, and 1 month after that, the paid race change service, along with in-game collectible pets. These services were seen by many as an affront on the integrity of the game, and although not terribly impactful by themselves, it was believed that they would serve as a gateway for more damaging paid services to be introduced later.
I just never really wanted to, like... how I see it is that whenever it's like an item or like a thing I have to buy with real money, I just never saw a point in it, because I feel like it's a lot more cooler, a lot more sick to have something unique in the game that you've acquired through the game, right? Because it doesn't really like give anything special if you have like a thing you can buy for $100 or whatever, right? Don't you have the Mini Diablo? Well, I didn't pay for that, so that's different, okay? It's how I see it, at least, right? It's just, it's cooler grinding for something.
In September of 2008.
Because it is a game, right? It is a game. You play the video game to sort of like get into like a different world and a different thing, right? Where the stuff in the game matters. And if you can just buy stuff in real life in that game, then it kind of nullifies a little bit of the point of the whole game. In a way, you know? I do get it though, that like it doesn't matter really for the gameplay, but it does a little bit for like the overall thing, right? I suppose. But it's never really been for me, at least.
The release date for the Wrath of the Lich King expansion became set in stone for November of the same year. Just as it was back in 2006, the clock began ticking.
Don't get me wrong though, guys. There's nothing wrong with spending money for cosmetics or whatever. For me, it's whatever. It goes to a line to where, like, as long as it's not like pay to win, that's where it becomes a really big problem, right? As long as there's not like a big advantage when buying stuff, right? So yeah.
Players to finish their activities in the Burning
Cosmetics
Crusade
are okay.
before the content
They're
was
just
made
not for
to be
me.
irrelevant, and due to the difficulty of the raiding scene in general, they had their hands full. There was quite a long drought between the final patch of the Burning Crusade and the launch of Wrath, nearly 8 months, but players didn't seem to mind due to the success and lingering challenge that the expansion had to offer. Those who thought otherwise, though, sought to fill in this void with the release of the highly anticipated Warhammer Online, which saw its release in September. But was it enough to succeed where the Lord of the Rings Online and Age of Conan failed?
Nope. I played like a goblin hunter or something, I remember. I had like a little... It was a really weird little creature I had, like a little mob. It was funny though for a little while, but you know.
We saw similar numbers to the Age of Conan, selling 1.2 million copies at launch, and starting off with a solid subscriber base of 800,000 players.
Yeah, square quarter.
But similar to Funcom's debacle, it simply wasn't ready. Performance issues overshadowed what could have been a great experience, and players that have grown accustomed to World of Warcraft's finely tuned and polished combat system immediately noticed a lack of fluidity with its gameplay. Additionally, the game would suffer from major scandals, such as erroneously charging subscribers for years of game time in a single day, with some racking up charges and overdraft fees into the thousands. Similar to the Age of Conan, Warhammer failed to retain...
This is why subscription-based stuff is scary. I know this is like a different thing, but I feel like a lot of the reasons why sub-based things are so scary is because a lot of people just forget about it. They just let the sub run and they just kind of forget. So it's like, okay, it's like $10 here, $10 there, and suddenly after 5 years, it's like a lot more money, right? It's scary.
In this early surge of players, the servers were shut down, and the subscriber base dropped even lower than that of their 2001 MMO, The Dark Age of Camelot. The game officially shut down in 2013, but many deemed it to be truly dead just 1 year after its release.
Shit. Lich King awaits you in 2 hours. Oh my god. There's something so
Shortly
cool
after, the Wrath
about
of
the
the Lich King
store
expansion
release.
saw its release, and Blizzard would once...
Waiting outside Blockbuster, dude. Oh, I miss Blockbuster, man. Going down to rent like a few movies for a movie night with the boys. Buy some candy, rent 2-3 movies or something, you know, get some good movies like Waterworld, Lord of the Rings, and like, you know, something else, Batman or something. It's so cool. Like, I miss that a lot. I really do.
More break sales records. Players charged into Northrend with new zones to explore, dungeons and raids to conquer, and a new class to discover. The Death Knight was what everyone expected and more. A lot more. Way too much, in fact, as many saw them to be far too powerful on release. They would later be tuned down in upcoming patches. Replayability was amplified as the achievement system was implemented, and players could collect points, titles, mounts, and more through this new feature aimed towards completionists. It would receive positive reviews of its many new features and improvements, and the subscriptions continued their upward trend, eventually peaking at 12 million. Just as with the Burning Crusade, it seemed to be unstoppable, though it would be where the first sign of weakness showed. Through the numbers that have been made public, there wasn't a single moment where Wrath had lost subscriptions between reports, but it was also the first expansion where they had stopped gaining subscribers, as they hovered around 11 to 12 million throughout the course of the expansion, and as shown, it wasn't due to any of these would-be WoW killers. In August of the same year, the raiding scene expanded in a big way as...
I like TUTC. Maybe that's a hot take. I like this raid. I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it a lot, personally.
The third raid tier for the expansion, the Trial of the Crusader, would release with the heroic difficulty setting. Previously, if players saw an extra challenge with the encounters, they could impose boss-specific hurdles or restrictions upon themselves for bonus loot, achievements, and bragging rights. Players would now instead...
I never got to fully clear Ulduar, but I loved the raid. I never cleared it fully. I couldn't. But you know, it is what it is.
Toggle this optional difficulty setting
I wasn't playing
before entering the raid,
at that level,
and every boss within would deal more damage, take more damage, and gain extra mechanics in exchange for better quality loot. This, along with the Mythic raiding mode to be introduced later, would become a landmark change in the core design of the game, aimed to increase accessibility by greatly lowering the base normal difficulty and funneling those seeking a greater challenge into this optional difficulty setting. This change in design would later be accelerated in the next expansion, the Cataclysm, which would be unveiled in BlizzCon 2009.
That will very literally change the face of the world of Azeroth as you know it.
This was a pretty big thing to do though. Destroy the entire thing.
I give you World of Warcraft Cataclysm.
I played Cata for 2 or 3 months and I quit.
The world of Azeroth was about to change for good, as the entire old world was deemed to be outdated by 2009 standards. This expansion's villain, Deathwing, would ravage the Eastern Kingdoms in Kalimdor.
I just didn't care that much for Deathwing, because the thing is, I loved the Lich King, I loved Illidan and stuff, but that's because you know more about them, right? Suddenly this big dragon just comes in and big dicks the entire world, right? I didn't care much about him personally.
But reshaping them visually and mechanically by reworking each quest. Players would be able to explore all of these changes from the comfort of their flying mounts, which were now enabled in the old world. 2 new races, the Worgen for the Alliance and the Goblin for the Horde, would also make their debut, as well as a reworked talent system. The game was to go.
Vashir was the best leveling zone in Cataclysm. That is not to be discussed. Best leveling zone in Cataclysm, Vashir, the water zone. That was the most fun of all the zones. I loved it.
Over its biggest makeover to date, and whether it was for the better or worse was yet to be seen.
It was so special and unique, and the whale sharks, it was such a cool world and an interesting take on a leveling experience. I thought it was great. I thought it was a cool way of getting that seahorse mount with the quest, all the whale sharks around the place. It's a little bit, it was unique. It was so cool. I loved it. I thought Vashir was amazing. Personally, it was great. I know it's a very, very unpopular opinion, but I don't care. I loved it.
December marked the month of another hallmark feature being added to the game, the Dungeon Finder. No longer did players have to travel the world to run to their favorite dungeons, as this tool matchmakes them together.
I'm sorry, but I have to say the truth.
And teleported the party directly to the entrance. At the time, this feature was received with overwhelmingly positive feedback and a welcome quality of life improvement. Though restricted to players only on their server at the time of its launch, it would later be opened up to other servers, which had the unintended side effect of alienating the community from each other. Previously, having to manually...
DJ Penguin. I don't know. Jimmy here. Oh, I thought this was from back in Cata. I was I know those people.
Forum groups had served as a critical and
classic
natural way for players.
That's classic WoW stuff. That's Faralina people. I thought it was what? How do I know both of those people from Cata?
Meet one another and make friends, and they would soon learn the downsides of automating the process. By handling the formation of the group automatically, social interaction was replaced with convenience, and the social aspect critical to MMO gameplay suffered as a result.
This is where it became less and less, I think, of an MMO, right? Because I think the thing that Classic nailed so perfectly, and why I think I enjoyed so much, is because they nailed the MMO feeling so well with the world and the community thing you're grouping together and the Horde versus Alliance. That's what they nailed, and I think that's why I really enjoy that game so much, right? And that's where it slowly deteriorated even just with TBC, it slowly went down that route.
By itself, this negative impact of the system would remain relatively minor, but in the coming years, players would notice a trend of eliminating these critical social structures in the name of convenience and at the cost of the game's sense of community, which many claim to be one of the biggest features to which it owed its success.
True, yeah. Upcoming changes to the forums. I never really frequented the forums that much.
The community would also see changes outside of the game. In July of 2010, Blizzard unveiled their new Real ID system, where
anyone posting or applying to a post will be doing so using their Real ID. That is their real life first and last name. They do the Facebook route, man. We go down the Facebook route, boys.
Supporting forums for all of their games, not just World of Warcraft, would no longer display character names when posting, but rather real names tied to the account. Players and onlookers alike reacted with concern of Blizzard's disregard of basic privacy rights, deeming that their actions would essentially dox the entire forum community. Doxing is the act of unearthing someone's personal information, such as their name or address, with the ultimate goal of real-life harassment. Today, the advent of swatting shows the repercussions of those whose personal information was leaked.
Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
For a company to do the work for them was seen as extremely dangerous. Flame wars and online disputes, past, present, and future, would serve as vessels for real-life harassment, they argued. They stated that the reason for the change was to cut down...
That's the thing about anonymity on the internet, right? It's like a really good thing, but it can also be a really bad thing, right? Because obviously it's nice being anonymous, but it's also like it's a two-faced street, right? Like, it could be a really awesome thing, but it can also be a very bad thing, you know, because people's true color when they're anonymous shines through, right? Because there's no repercussions, and they have no like real life attachment to what they're saying in their virtual. Like, let's say if, like, you know, Buttblaster 5000 says, "Oh, dude, I'm gonna go fuck your wife, and there's nothing you can do about it, you loser," right? It's like, there might be, like, you know, repercussions if Buttblaster 5000 is then suddenly Peter Man, right? It's a different thing, and it can be a good and a bad thing, I think.
On forum trolling, their logic being that if someone's real name was tied to their post, they'd think more carefully about how they...
That's actual bullshit. People say whatever they want anyway. No. Okay, so you're telling me that if everybody in the chat right now had their full real name in the chat, and I could click on your name like this and it would show me your face, that Twitch chat would be the same? No shot it would. Not even close. I do not believe that for a second. No. If I just clicked on anyone's name and this would say like, oh, that this is like Peter Man, you know, or like Saracen, right? I don't think so. For some people, maybe it would. But I think for a big majority, it would definitely change the way that they would behave in Twitch chat, right? People will call me ugly. Oh, fuck. I think for a lot of people though, it would change the way they act. Maybe not for everybody, but for a lot, they would not like sit there and post the same thing that they do, right?
Treat others, and that quote, removing the veil of anonymity typical to online dialogue, will contribute to a more positive forum environment and connect the Blizzard community in ways that they haven't been connected before. Another community manager put it to the test, and in an effort to quell the players' fear, he posted his real-life name. Within 1 day, players found and published his address, phone number, age, and took to placing false pizza orders in his name, and even placed death threats, connecting him with the community in ways that he's never been.
When I was getting death threats or my base pay was 47,000. Not sure if I want to laugh or oh my
connected
god.
Before. Shortly after, the co-founder of Blizzard, Mike Morhaime, stepped in and announced that they had rescinded their plans of publishing the players' real names. In October,
good
Blizzard
idea.
pinned down a release date for the Cataclysm expansion, December 7th of the same year, and despite the controversy, the game in October would reach its peak subscriber count of 12 million.
Yep.
The holidays came, and the Day of Reckoning was at hand, and the World of Warcraft would suffer Cataclysm in more ways than one. In addition to the
it didn't just break the world, it was it would break a little bit more than that.
Tuned to Old World, the talent system would also see an overhaul, altering the traditional freeform 3-tree talent system into specializations. Players would be forced to pick just one, and lose access to many spells iconic to the other two. The trees as a whole would also be simplified, and the amount of points to invest reduced. Class and item balance in general would also be at the forefront of changes in the expansion, mostly through the form of removal.
Single Mind Fury.
Removed, and all abilities now just had one rank that scaled with your level, and were trained automatically, and much more. The Cataclysm expansion is seen by many to mark the point when the RPG and MMORPG was made to be lowercase, as it transformed into a much simpler version of an already straightforward game. As World of Warcraft strayed further and further away from its social and RPG roots, a community of private server players would grow larger and larger with each expansion. Independent groups took to hosting past versions of the game, the most prolific of which being of its original state, referred to as vanilla. Though its beginnings were humble, this private server community would eventually grow large enough to become a problem for Blizzard.
It's crazy how big the private server community grew from like such a small thing with like a few thousand people maybe to like Nostaria's like crazy big and then actually getting classic WoW. It's quite astonishing actually.
They would find themselves embroiled in legal battles to protect their IP from infringement.
It was never small though. It was in the beginning, yeah. Private servers were pretty small, like compared to like what they became.
And would eventually influence a major developed project many years later. Regardless, they showed once more that they had no difficulty in selling expansions, as once again, they broke their own sales record with Cataclysm, selling a staggering 3.3 million copies on release day. But unlike the previous expansions, they had not seen an overall increase in subscribers post-release, instead remaining steady at the 12 million mark it had been stuck at since the beginning of 2009. And for the first time since its inception in 2004, the World of Warcraft would see a loss in reported subscribers. In fact, Cataclysm would...
I think right here on this dot, I think this is where I quit. That's where I quit WoW for the first time. I've never quit WoW before this point here. That's where I quit.
Built to gain subscribers.
I came back at some point. I actually didn't come back to WoW before VOD. I didn't play MOB at all. I watched people stream VOD, and I was on Twitch, and I watched people stream it, but I didn't play it myself. I watched other people play, but not myself.
In a single reported quarter in its near 2-year run,
remember you watching Soda Puppet doing challenge
the next expansion, The Mists of Pandora, which would be announced in October.
Yeah, there's the pandas.
The initial reaction would be very mixed. The theme of the expansion was so unexpected that...
From what I get, PvP players loved MOB. That's from most people that I get, that a lot of the PvP players, they loved MOB. That's what I understand from most people that played it. Didn't play it myself, so I can't speak for it, but that's just what I hear, right? That it was like crazy good for PvP.
Many thought it to be an out-of-season April Fool's joke.
So you guys agree?
Players would explore the mysterious world of Pandora with a new race, the Pandaren, and a new class, the Monk. Dungeons were getting a special challenge mode to bring relevancy once more.
This was cool, challenge mode.
And scenarios would be queuable micro-dungeons designed for 3 players. And the pet battle system was also implemented.
I feel like this whole... The whole like Shah of anger, Shah of this, Shah of that. For me, it's just kind of whatever. It's just I don't really care much about that kind of stuff, right? But I guess why some people can understand it. It just feels kind of like I get they want to do it in the beginning, but it just seemed like a very reoccurring theme throughout the entire expansion. It kind of became a little bit mundane, in my opinion. But you know, I think what was that big raid that was? Throne of Thunder was like the big boy, like super sick raid, right? But that was also different because that was not just like Shah stuff all over the place. It was like actually some cool stuff.
A minigame reminiscent of the popular Pokemon franchise. As for the talent system, it would be simplified.
That seems pretty cool too.
Further.
Never, as I said, guys, I never played it, so I can't really speak from my perspective. I watched people stream it and I watched some videos about it, but I never played, so that's just how I see, right?
Into the tier system, offering more impactful choices, but at a reduced quantity of just 6 points to invest. And most controversially, cross-realm zones
kinda
would
wish I played back
eventually
in,
be
MoB,
implemented,
actually.
where players of differing realms would be able to see and interact with one another. Due to the falling subscriber base brought on by the Cataclysm, there were far too many servers running for the dwindling player base.
Didn't they merge
and as a
them?
result, the worlds were starting to become barren. By grouping servers together, Blizzard aimed once more to breathe life into the world of Azeroth. While many looked at the expansion as something new and fresh, many more would be immediately turned off by its aesthetics, and due to the downward trend in subscriptions, skepticism if it would be a success was at an alt.
Some of the zone stars look cool though. Okay, they do look pretty cool, some of them, I think. So Adriana, help.
Time high. This was still far into the future though, and the current focus remained to be Cataclysm, which at this point was still steadily losing subscribers. In November, along with the final raid, Dragon Soul, the LFR system would see its release. Similar to the Dungeon Finder released in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, this would allow players to matchmake with others in a queue-based raiding mode, doubling
This
down.
boss, I never got this boss, man. Like the Spine of Deathwing, what, I don't know how they could have made like Deathwing so cool, the boss fight, but it just turned into like such a weird, why
On their design,
I don't know.
away.
And he lands in the maelstrom and turns into an octopus. Like, what's going on? Like, bro.
Critical social and RPG functions for the sake of convenience and accessibility. To accommodate for the increased disorganization that came with queue-based matchmaking, the difficulty would be lowered even further than that of the base normal difficulty.
Catatones looks cool,
It was
true.
from this point forward that players no longer needed to even join a guild to experience the endgame content. They didn't need to read strategies, and they didn't even need to speak a single word, in fact, as Blizzard deemed it an issue that 100% of the player base were not completing these raids in their entirety.
Not everybody should complete it. That's like, there's something cool about there being players or like people in the server or in the game that can do stuff that other people can't, right? There needs to be something that's unobtainable for a lot of people because it adds to the mystery of the game and it gives people that attain those things more prestige within the game, right? There needs to be things that are so difficult or like so weirdly out there that not everybody can get. And no, this shouldn't be every single thing in the game. Most content should be attainable for most people, but there should be things that are like, this is hard, right? Like this is gonna be sick. Like if you get that, you're crazy good, right? It's how it is, right? That's how I see it, at least. Not everybody should be able to like get everything done. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this whole like LFR, normal, heroic, mythic elite version, right? It's just, I don't know, man.
Accomplishment of clearing a raid would be more accessible.
Sorry, I think a way where they did it really cool was... Go on.
Stop crying already and just play the game. It's made for children's. Why are adults complaining it's hard? LOL.
Wait, me? I don't know if I'm complaining, but I mean, I probably am complaining, let's be honest. That's a part of the thing I'm doing, right? Thank you, Tropic, for the 32 months, though. But I lost my track of thought. God damn, you're lucky.
Than ever before, but as a result, the accomplishment would mean nothing from this point forward. During this time, another would-be WoW killer was...
A way that they did it really good was Ulduar. Ulduar hard modes was cool. That was sick. That's all I wanted to say.
Beginning to generate interest. Star Wars Galaxies at this point had been shut down in order to bolster the subscriber base
hard
of
modes.
Star Wars:
Sick.
The Old Republic.
Thank you, Tropic.
Developed by BioWare and published by... It would be attempt number 2 for Star Wars on the massively multiplayer scale. This installment promised a unique and fully voice-acted campaign for each of their classes, a space shooter component with a customizable ship, a thriving endgame for PvE and PvP, and perhaps most importantly, it was during the first time where the reigning champion showed weakness. While ultimately the previous contenders failed on their own merits, it can be argued that the tremendous success of the world of Warcraft during their debut certainly made them look worse in comparison. Now that this weakness was showing though, the timing was ideal. Would the Old Republic succeed where its predecessors?
I only played SVTOR very briefly. Not very much though. I played it for like a week maybe.
Failed?
So
ex-subscribers, disillusioned with the direction that the game had taken throughout the Cataclysm, looked at the Old Republic
I didn't really enjoy it
as
personally.
the true successor this time. Players had been doomsaying the imminent demise of World of Warcraft ever since its launch in 2004. Only this time, the game's downward trend would support
what did
their
that
claims.
say? One sec. If a female orc hit on you, ... Bro, these like WoW forums are like, there's some special people on there.
Who is
like
Girona?
some like fan fiction on there, dude.
And 4. Only this time, the game's downward trend would support their claims. So, the moment of truth came, the launch arrived, and like many other MMOs before it, the Old Republic launched too early. In an attempt to release it during the holiday season, it was rushed out and would suffer from technical issues, game-breaking bugs, and questionable design decisions, most notable of which is their use of the hero engine, which proved to be poor in an MMO environment. There would be a short delay between the player casting a spell and that spell actually landing.
Oh god. Oh.
An issue they attempted to rectify by tying an animation for each ability to make it seem more natural. As a result though, the combat felt very sluggish and awkward, and those used to the crisp and smooth nature of the World of Warcraft's combat system noticed a huge and immediate downgrade in quality. This, combined with other disappointing features, such as their
Thank you, Jimmy, for the tier 1. Thank you.
Spaceship component being entirely on rails, hindered its success in its crucial launch period. The game had sold over 2 million copies and held 1.7 million subscribers, which was around a sixth of the World of Warcraft subscriptions at the time, the closest that any recent MMO came to rivaling WoW's popularity since its launch in 2004. But much like
Thank you for the Prime hot memes.
Lord of the Rings Online, The Age of Conan, and Warhammer Online, the Star Wars The Old Republic suffered a similar fate, and the subscriptions quickly plummeted. Not even 8 months later, it would convert to the free-to-play model, often seen as the death sentence of MMOs. Today, the game holds a total of 5 servers, once again coming nowhere near being the WoW killer it was predicted to be.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy
World of Warcraft.
not join them!
Yeah. The only true WoW killer is itself in the end. What is this?
Time marched on.
Oh my god.
The Mists of Pandaria expansion would release in the month of September, and for the first time since the release of the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, they saw an increase in subscriptions, though the eagerness of the player base was notably diminished.
People were pissed about the pandas, I remember.
As this would be the first expansion to fail in breaking sales records for Blizzard upon release, falling 30% below than that of Cataclysm. Barring this initial surge, they would be unable to halt the downward trend that had begun since the launch of Cataclysm, as subscribers would quickly drop from 10 million at launch to 9 million, then 8, and around 6.8 at its lowest point, a drop of over 30%, and the players were starting to feel the effect of a world that grew less active with each passing day. Crossrealm officially saw its release, which would make the world seem sprawling once more, but once again...
I think it's because a lot of people just don't care about the world anymore, right? Like, I think that's a big reason for it, at least like partially. You know what I mean?
At the expense of the server's community, which would be
like,
present only in name from this point forward. Seeing the same players and guilds on your server consistently turned out to be an integral part of establishing a community that was only realized once it was taken away. The world once more had players in it, but due to the large amount of servers that would be grouped together, players scarcely saw or recognized other players from previous adventures. The basis to form a community, which had been a key reason for its success, was now a distant memory. The world was in a predicament, and Blizzard had a difficult problem to solve. a nearly empty world with little community,
I
or
have
a
seen
full
it,
world.
yeah. Every like classic servers, like, or like at least like TBC is completely messed up, man. Every single TBC server is completely like faction is so bad now.
Ironically enough, with no community, though innocent enough on launch, Crossrealm is seen today as a necessary evil for a problem, which true solution lies in recapturing subscribers now lost, an issue that Blizzard would struggle with for years to come, as the once iconic MMORPG now barely resembled an MMO due to its destroyed social structures, and barely an RPG due to its abandoned RPG elements,
This is a different game.
which would be taken a step further in March of 2013, as the game saw another major change with its first instance of forged loot. Released with the Throne of Thunder raid, loot had the potential to have an increased quality, regardless of the difficulty.
Oh, there's the Warforged. Oh my god. Yeah. Well, you got your best in slot item. Whoop-de-doo. Well, it's not Warforged. Better try again.
Which the players defeated the bosses, having previously lost longevity in the raiding scene through the reduced base difficulty. They had hoped to regain it via randomized loot, and although it was relatively tame at the time of its release, this forging system would later be seen by many to get out of hand, and help diminish and confuse the reward structure that had been standard for the game for 8 years at that point. Time passed, patches released,
dude, there he is, dude, the Giga Chat
debuted, and much changed with the expansion in the year of 2013. Something that didn't, though, was this ongoing downward trend of subscribers. In BlizzCon 2013, Blizzard would announce its next expansion, the Warlords of Draenor. The player base would journey back to the world of Draenor.
I came back in Warlords of Draenor because a few of my IRL friends asked me to come back and play with them. I came back to it. I leveled up a druid to max level called Milky Way. And once I got max level and I got my gear, all my friends quit and I was alone. That's what happened. But I did really enjoy the leveling first time around. Going through all the zones for the first time was really fun, in my opinion. But I quit short after. Because all my friends stopped playing. You know, that's how it was. So I was like alone.
Draenor, an alternate reality before it was corrupted.
So many people fell for the VOD bait though. I cannot be the only one who was like, bro, this is gonna be the expansion. They're actually gonna bring it back. It's gonna be sick. Like, the garrison sounded amazing. Like, I was there. I was like, okay, this is it. The same thing happened with BFA. But for me, VOD was a lot more than that.
Into what they knew as the Outland in the Burning Crusade expansion. It's here where they would establish forward bases, known as garrisons, and launch a campaign against Garrosh Hellscream, the leader of...
You can choose where you want your garrison in any place in Draenor, by the way, guys. Oh, never mind. No, you don't scratch that. You know what? Yep, you know what? All the other things you thought was cool about the garrisons, let's scratch those too, man. Yeah.
Of the United Orc Army, known as the Iron Horde, who were set to invade the land of Azeroth. At this point, the private server community had gained considerable traction as players yearned for the game that had originally...
This is around the time where I started playing private servers, I think. Because I quit VOD and then I got into private servers. Before this, I had played like the 255 like custom eye-level private servers, but around this time, a little bit after VOD, that's where I got into private servers.
Captivated them, and were becoming more and more unruly as the retail version strayed further and further away from its roots, and they began campaigning Blizzard to officially develop and support this past version of the game. In a Q&A panel during the convention, one such player asked for an official answer on the possibility of a legacy server. The question was fielded by J. Allen Brack, at the time a production director for World of Warcraft, and he delivered this now infamous answer.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No. And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't. Remember when you had to like spam cities and say need a tank, need a tank, need a tank during the Burning Crusade days? You don't remember that. Because now you just push a button that says go to the dungeon. You don't want to do that.
Though the quote would draw immediate ire of the legacy community, it would prove to be an integral moment in its development, serving as a rallying cry of sorts, and bringing more and more attention on the possibilities of developing such a version of the game. The answer was seen as dismissive and
why are they all naked?
Especially considering
what's
the fact
happening
that private servers at this point had grown to new levels of popularity. And with this dismissive answer, the questions started turning into demands and
the wall of
discussion
no.
its
Oh my
viability or
god.
not, and served to fan the flames of a community becoming increasingly disillusioned of the world of Warcraft and Blizzard in their current state.
We are now officially just about halfway done with the video, boy. Yep, got the rest left, boys. Who's to 90 today? Oh!
As the players were leaving, Blizzard had sought to recover financially through an increased focus and impact of their cash shop. And
here comes the goddamn shop.
Previously made shortly after their merger with Activision,
that's the shop.
They would finally turn the corner in December of 2013 and officially implemented the cash shop in-game, and along with it came the most impactful service to date. The level
they made it
boost.
so epic, huh?
Leveling was now skippable, as players could pay $60 to immediately be fast-tracked to the maximum level and jump right into the endgame. By and large, the most impactful paid service.
It just proves kind of how little the world mattered now, right? Like, it's, you know.
At that point, what was at one point seen as a cornerstone of MMO design was now skippable through an officially endorsed service.
Well,
the consequence and investment of picking a class, investing time into it, leveling it, and learning it were thrown away. Sacrificed like many other features for convenience, accessibility, and short-term financial gain, further damaging its already crippled RPG design. The backlash was immediate, but little did players know, it was just the beginning, and the standards of paid advantage in the game would sink lower and lower in the coming years. Time passed, and two things remained constant: a decrease in subscriber count and stagnation. The final major patch of the expansion.
Subscribers became less more of the way they made money, and it became more like, you know, through the web shop and stuff like that, where the money came in, you know.
Had released in September of the previous year,
2013, man.
And other than the addition of the level boost, the game saw no updates until the Warlords of Draenor pre-patch in October of 2014, an astounding gap of 13 months in the game's development. This had marked the longest drought yet, and subscribers fled the game in record numbers, as the Mists of Pandora failed to retain the migrating player base.
This is a whole movie, this whole thing we're watching, boys. Oh, there it is.
November came, and with it, the launch of the Warlords of Draenor expansion. Despite the game's troubles,
I remember the launch being really shitty, but let's see what he says.
A combination of marketing and hype led to a rather successful expansion launch sales-wise. Over 3.3 million players had expansions in hand, ready to step through the dark portal.
It was so
for
popular,
a second time, and subscriptions skyrocketed to 10.5 million, the highest it had been since the launch of the Mists.
Look at the hype!
And it holds the record of the largest surge in subscribers.
Dude, I'm getting chills. Look at the hype, man. You can say what you want, but the marketing team for VOD, they nailed it, man. Everybody wanted to play that goddamn game. Little did they know, though, and myself included. You know, WoW is finally saved, boys. Thank God. Let's go.
For expansion launches, though unfortunately for Blizzard, history would repeat itself in more ways than one, as once again they had failed to retain this boon, as problems soon arose after launch.
Oh, that's nice. Every fucking server that I even play on is offline. Oh, yeah. It looks like mine aren't the only ones.
They had come under a DDoS attack, as their servers were flooded with artificial traffic until they shut down from the strain. This would go on for several days as law enforcement investigated into the matter. Meanwhile, though, players would become increasingly frustrated as the game remained to be mostly unplayable.
5 days of free play, Blizzard. You're being too nice now, aren't you? Oh. Dude, they could at least give it like a month. I don't know, man. Like 5 days. Really, though? Unbelievable,
The culprits
man.
were eventually stopped, but the damage had been done, and the game experienced its worst launch since its initial release in 2004. What's more, once the issues subsided, players were met with what is now widely considered to be one of the worst expansions in the game's history. The main feature of the
Yeah, I was about to say that too, Natler. Like, Final Fantasy literally like almost gave a month free when they had some issues with it, and we have WoW. Here, guys, have 5 days. It's like a little patch on the wound, right? Like a little first aid on the band-aid on the wound. Yeah.
expansion, the garrison system isolated players in their own instance where they could recruit followers, start an herb garden, mine and craft, and even use the auction house with the correct buildings. Although convenient, it served as yet another feature to alienate an already fractured community from each other, and the game at times seemed as if it was single player, a problem made worse by the massive hemorrhage of subscribers that was yet to come. Just as how the expansion broke subscription records on launch, it also broke records for lost subscriptions shortly after, as players saw little enjoyment from
I don't even know why I'm laughing. I want the game to do well, but it's just so funny, man. Like, it's,
as an unfinished expansion, as many of the features previously teased would be left on the cutting room floor, including new systems, 2 major cities, battlegrounds, another zone, and even an entire raid tier, to name just a few. Time between patches would grow even larger, and the patches themselves delivered less content. The expansion held a total of just 3 major raids throughout its entirety, with every expansion preceding.
Dude, look how many there was in like the early ones here, man. And they have 3 involved. You can't see that, but like it's 3.
Having at least 4. The combined effect of instanced garrisons and players flocking.
Who else was, you know, pondering for a long time in which zone you should put your garrison boys? Because I know for me that was a very big question, like Frostfire Ridge or over here. Where should I put it? There's so many cool zones, you know. Well, you don't get to choose. Blizzard will do that for you.
Away made the new world seem dead, and so more and more servers would be connected to each other in an attempt to bring life back into the dying world. As subscriptions plummeted to an all-time low since its initial rise in vanilla at 5.5 million. It was announced shortly after that they would no longer report subscription numbers, stating that there are better indicators of business performance. The message was clear. Where they had lost revenue in subscriptions, they gained several times over via the paid level boost. Success was no longer tied to a healthy player base, but rather revenue, and although looked at today as an embarrassing period in the game's history, financially it lifted the developer to new heights. Combined with other cash shop services, the level boost and the Warlords of Draenor played a large role in Activision Blizzard's best financial quarter to date.
They had a lot fewer people playing their game, but the people that did play paid a lot of money to play the game, right? Because of cash shops, level boosts, character transfers, you know, all that stuff. It just, each player was worth more gold, like money to them, right? It's like the whales, yeah.
Influence of the cash shop now fully realized, it would be taken a step further in March of 2015 with the addition of the WoW token, where players could exchange real money for in-game gold. Or on the other hand, use gold to purchase a token to pay for the subscription fee, or convert it into a balance only spendable on Blizzard products. Regardless of the method, it would prove to be a massive commercial success for Activision Blizzard, earning them record profits during record low subscriptions. A long time had passed since the cash shop's initial rise in 2008. Those who warned of the dangerous path that World of Warcraft was set on saw their predictions unfold slowly over the course of several years. At this point in the game's history, it was possible to buy levels, it was possible to buy currency, and with this currency, you could buy items and even services from other players, such as raid or arena carries.
I remember the whole thing with like the World First Raiders, like they spent so much gold on, like, you know, the World First Raiding and stuff like that, and, you know, the WoW tokens and the money. It's just,
and the list of things that you couldn't buy was now far shorter than the list of things that you could buy. It was at this point that the game was deemed by many to be pay to win, as real-life purchases now had a clear and heavy impact on the power levels between different players. Behavior that previously warranted suspensions was now officially endorsed and advertised, and any semblance of integrity the game had left was abandoned. Though at this point, subscriptions were no longer being reported, morale of the game's future continued to decline.
Legion. I didn't play Legion before the very end, so I can't really speak of much of Legion, because I as I said, I quit in VOD. Whenever Legion came out, I didn't play, but I started playing in late Legion, like last patch, basically.
In August of the same year, at the Gamescom convention, the next expansion, Legion, would be announced. The long-lost Broken Isles were discovered, and
people
the
are saying,
Warlock...
I always get like mixed signals when I ask people about Legion. Some people say it's amazing, and some people say it's like the worst expansion ever, right? So I don't really know where I should put it, because I don't really know.
Gul'dan unleashed a second Burning Crusade upon Azeroth. It would feature a new class, the Demon Hunter, among many supporting systems such as powerful and unique artifact weapons that players could obtain and level up as an additional form of character progression. Each class would have a story-driven Order Hall campaign questline. A new legendary system would be added, where for most
people said this was
activities in the game, players had a small chance to obtain powerful legendary items to further enhance their characters. Daily quest hubs would be replaced with world quests, offering a greater variety in daily activities, which had become standard for several years, and the Mythic Plus system, an infinitely scaling timed challenge mode to bring dungeons.
This was when this was introduced to, okay.
Back once more as a focus of endgame content.
Yeah.
After the Warlords of Draenor, the confidence of the players was at an all-time low, and many would hope that Legion would be the expansion to redeem it. Although subscription numbers were no longer being reported, it had tied the release day sales records set by Cataclysm several years prior, selling a total of 3.3 million copies on release. Quarterly investor reports would also provide promising data on the overall reception of the Legion expansion, suggesting higher playtime per player. Mostly due to the success of its major features, the expansion as a whole proved to be a much-needed recovery. The Order Halls, being public locations that players shared, served as a base of operations and, unlike the previous garrison system, didn't harm its own social aspect. World quests, compared to the old daily hubs, offered much-needed variety in players' daily activities, and Mythic Plus saw high activity as players enjoyed the timed, ever-increasing challenge that they provided. Most of its features were received well, and with a solid rating scene to support it, it's generally looked back at favorably by even the most embittered fans, with its criticisms primarily being drawn from its reward structure. The legendaries, due to their low drop chance and high impact on gameplay, would be a source of frustration, so much so that they would receive a rehaul late into the expansion.
This is where people said it got good, right? When they remade the legendaries, that's where it got good. But before that, they were like trash, right? From my understanding of what people say.
Where players could purchase specific pieces.
So this is where it became actually nice.
And similarly, the forging system also contributed to this atmosphere of luck by holding too much power in character progression. At this point, it was called Titan Forging, which had a much larger eye level range compared to the more tame Thunder Forging first introduced in Pandora. Items could roll up to 60 eye levels higher than that of their base, which...
This is way too, like... so RNG. You get like an item that's like just way better, just randomly. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just straight up RNG.
Made it possible to obtain mythic rating quality gear from even the most mundane activities. World of Warcraft and MMOs in general already have a high amount of luck tied to progression, but this added layer of needing the right piece to drop, and for that piece to Titan Forge, shifted the reward structure further from time investment to blind luck, and combined with the legendary system, many players would liken the expansion to a slot machine. Though overall, Legion would be received.
A little bit of RNG is very good, but when it becomes too much, it becomes very annoying and obnoxious to deal with. But games should have some RNG.
Uh-oh, retard alert! Retard alert, class!
Quite well, it was met with troubling news from within. Senior Vice President of Story and Franchise Development, Chris Madseason, who had been with the company for 23 years at that point, had announced his retirement, citing burnout, panic attacks,
Thank you for the sub,
and the desire to
Hakase.
spend more time with his family.
Thank you for the prime.
As the primary reasons for the decision.
Thank you.
What a casual. Having been one of the most public-facing figures and a primary visionary for the World of Warcraft and the characters who inhabited it, it was seen as a tremendous loss, with fans and co-workers alike commenting on his influence on the franchise.
Yep.
Along with this newfound growth of Legion, the private server community had also been thriving, and in 2016, it was larger than it had ever been at that point, with most congregating to a server named Nostalrius.
Good lord. So many goddamn people.
Oh, this was sick.
The server's been up for
This
about
was
10 minutes and people are just entering. And this is the scene.
The server had been hosting over 130,000 active players worldwide. An impressive feat for a game that users had to seek out
the
on
whole
their
like private server stuff and everything was just like the perfect storm. It was so like, God.
own.
Chris saw the future. Yeah, he got out at a perfect time. He literally did, for sure.
Success proved to be their downfall, however, as in April of 2016, Blizzard had sent cease and desist letters for those responsible for running the server, threatening legal action if they refused to shut it down.
I personally had a private investigator hired to track me down by a legal firm that represents Blizzard. He called numerous people in my life, including my employer, my owner of my company, to confirm information about me so he could serve me papers.
Thank you for your patronage.
Oh, go on.
Legion was great. The only reason people didn't enjoy it was because of Asmongold. Leveling up the weps meant something. You felt yourself getting stronger. Better than now anyway. Kill a boss 50 times for a wep to drop and then 50 more for the offhand.
I don't think Asmongold has anything to do with that. I don't know. I didn't play Legion. So I don't know the whole thing about that, but I don't think that has anything to do with that. I'm not gonna lie. I think generally speaking, it was a pretty, you know, agreed upon thing from the whole community that the whole thing was just not that great until late Legion, right? But yeah, I don't know. I didn't play Legion. I can't really speak much about it. I wasn't really much in that whole sphere of things back then, but I don't think that's true, though, necessarily.
Slamming and knocking on the door, freaking the crap out of my wife, and waking up my baby daughter in the next room.
They would comply shortly after, as tens of thousands of players logged in one last time.
This was emotional when they shut down the servers, man, for me.
That they had built. The shutdown.
I had a full Bloodfang Tier 2 Biz Rogue with DFT, CTS, Brutality Blade. Like, I had a fully Biz Rogue, man. Oh my god.
Although completely within Blizzard's rights legally, naturally sparked outrage among the private server community. A petition was created for an officially developed Blizzard Legacy server, and it would reach nearly 300,000 signatures in the span of 2 weeks. And although it didn't provide immediate results, much like the infamous "you think you do but you don't" quote, it would prove to be a critical moment in Classic's history.
Boom. See what we got now? There she is. The Bay.
The next expansion would be revealed at BlizzCon 2017, and players learned of the battle for Azeroth. Having thwarted the second Burning Crusade...
I thought this was gonna be... I'm pissed. I thought this was gonna be so cool. I was a private server Andy, and I played Classic, but I was so ready. I was so hardcore ready. That's what I meant. That's what I want to say. Like, I was ready for this. Like, I was actually excited for BFA a lot. I was very ecstatic about it. And I think a lot of people share that same sentiment as well. Like, the whole premise of it, like being Horde versus Alliance, like bringing back the meaning of the MMO. I thought it was going to bring back that whole thing. And I was ready, man. I was so excited. I really was.
Horde and Alliance now turned their attention on each other and would stage an all-out war over a new resource called Azerite. This resource would serve as a way to empower a new amulet, the level of which would unlock traits and accompanying armor pieces. The system had been set up similarly to the previously successful Artifact system, and advertised increased customization and player agency, allowing them to tailor their characters to suit their gameplay style.
You might find a power that makes you think twice about using a talent that you'd previously written off, and you will certainly find combinations that reinforce your favorite way to play.
The Wounds of Azeroth! Champion, we need you! Dude, I played so much BFA in the start. I actually really enjoyed BFA in the beginning. I did. But it just... Blizzard, man, come on. Whatever, man. I liked it in the beginning. I genuinely liked it in the beginning. But then, you know, reality hit, and the honeymoon phase was over, and then you started arguing with the game, and then you started sleeping on the couch, and like, you know, it's like the honeymoon phase was over, and it just became a mundane chore, right? It became a daily quest you had to do, and that's where it started losing its purpose and its meaning, and the relationship became toxic again, you know? Even though you thought you could get together again, you couldn't, and you shouldn't, right?
Of obtaining this resource were through island expeditions, where a team of 3 players could fight against another team of players or AI for Azerite, found randomly throughout the island, with random enemy selection,
don't even get me started on islands,
and
man.
quests serving as the primary means of
man.
attempting to add
I was so
replayability
excited
and
for those.
longevity to them.
It's something that we're calling dynamic replayability. Every time you come to this space, the puzzle is different. The creatures are in different locations. There are additional gameplay elements scattered throughout the world, and it's always a little bit different.
Warfronts were a new feature, which were reminiscent of the original strategy games that the
It was literally... Whatever, I'm not gonna start, dude. That whole thing, that whole spiel with the island expeditions was the biggest bait in the world, man. And it worked. That was the worst part. It worked so well. They baited so many people in with it too. And Warfronts, here we go.
MMO was based off of. In here, you would battle for resources, and construct and upgrade buildings, and fend off troops with the ultimate goal of defeating the enemy commander.
Hoggers.
These wouldn't be the only announcements the World of Warcraft team had, though.
And I want to talk about... ice cream. Ice cream is great.
We start over.
Ice cream is one of my favorite desserts. Personally, I love chocolate.
I was fucking hyped for this.
And I love cookies and cream.
I was so hyped. Oh my god.
Cookies and cream is actually my all-time favorite dessert.
I was losing my mind.
But I understand that for some of you, your favorite flavor is vanilla.
Bro.
Though for years they had claimed a re-release of previous versions of the game was impossible, World of Warcraft Classic would be unveiled, combining the updated Legion client with old data discovered on a backup of a...
I remember when I got into the beta, I was sitting on Discord. You guys know who Comedy Russell is? Like Russell? I was sitting in Discord with him, and I was eating chicken nuggets that I had bought from Netto with ketchup on them. And I got like an email that I got into the beta, and I freaked out. I absolutely freaked out. I finished all the nuggets, and I threw the plate in the kitchen, and I turned on my stream. Like, I freaked out, man.
A backup held onto by an ex-employee. A small team dedicated their efforts.
How many nuggets? I ate like a whole bag. You know, like those bags you can buy in the grocery store? I had made like a whole bag. Because I didn't think I would get into the beta, so I had prepared like a sadness meal to eat when other people got in and I didn't get in. But then I got in and I was like, oh, you know, shit. So I started playing. So I had like prepared like a meal I could eat to be sad while watching other people play. But, you know, I got in.
Providing a home for the ever-growing population of vanilla fans in place of the one that they had not so long ago taken away. Details of development would follow shortly after, with a philosophy of changing as little of the game as possible in an effort to most accurately recreate the experience as it was from 2004 to 2007, including a phasing schedule to match roughly the original release schedule, and as requested by the player base, the absence of many features such as the dungeon finder, looking for raid mode, and the endgame cash shop, to name just a few. Combined with Legion's recent success, the outlook of the game was looking more promising than ever before. The Battle for Azeroth soon saw its release in August of 2018, selling 3.4 million copies on its first day, breaking the record initially set by Cataclysm in 2010. However, when the honeymoon phase ended, the faults of the expansion started to become clear. The Azerite armor system, which was said to hold major traits that altered how classes played, instead were a series of incidental procs that rarely did anything other than increase damage done, healing throughput, and damage mitigation, with some being just base stat increases.
You might find a power that...
I remember I got a really good upgrade for a weapon for my rogue. And it's just like, okay, well the traits are bad, so I'm gonna throw that in the trash.
Makes you think twice about using a talent that you'd previously written off, and you will certainly find combinations that reinforce your favorite way to play your character.
Not at all as gameplay altering as advertised. And despite BFA being centered around a faction war, Warfronts were exclusively a PvE game mode that were also nearly impossible to lose, with the only recorded losses resulting from the entire team waiting within the base until they were overwhelmed.
Wow. I'm screenshotting this.
Due to this extreme lack of challenge, they were seen to be more of a chore than anything else. And as for island expeditions, players saw little replayability in the randomized selection of enemies, and behind the bells and whistles was a simple and repetitive truth. Rush to get the required amount of Azerite before the enemy team does, and as a result, the game mode would become very repetitive very quickly.
It was really
The story would
repetitive.
also come under heavy criticism.
Oh my God.
The whole expansion would have a heavy focus on Sylvanas Windrunner, the leader of the Forsaken of the Horde, and throughout BFA's 2-year run, she would face many major lore characters, and even entire armies, outwitting them at every turn or dispatching them with ease in combat.
But it was her evil twin soul that she couldn't control because... Okay, let's keep on.
The decisions she made often came with no reasonable explanation or logic, leaving the player base in the dark.
I hate, dude. Oh my God, man, come on, dude.
And many would liken her
Okay,
to
sorry
a
guys,
very
sorry. Fiona is an ogre in Shrek, okay? There's another spoiler for you. Sorry.
A fiction archetype who is inexplicably free of any and all weakness. Such traits are also common through self-inserts, which there was also evidence of, as a writer for Blizzard would roleplay as a major character, Nathanos Blightcaller, on Twitter. The narrative structure remained ambiguous.
I remember that surfacing! Oh my God! Oh my God! Yeah!
Of the expansion, with most criticism being made towards the ending. As was custom with the final boss of an expansion since the wrath of the Lich King, players were treated with the finale cutscene. They would typically run a few minutes and were fully voice-acted animation presentations.
Is it over? I see only darkness. At long last.
Dude.
No king rules forever, my son.
Though for the Battle for Azeroth, the old god N'Zoth would be the finale, with years of anticipation building up as his existence was referenced several times up to the final patch of the expansion, and where players expected a similar voice-acted dialogue between the major lore characters and their thoughts on defeating a god, they were instead met with the same footage I just droned over in a monotone manner. The feedback was immediate and clear. And shortly after its premiere, the video would be unlisted, as Blizzard tried to hide the blundered finish to a blunder of an expansion.
Sauron death, yeah.
Come on, guys, let's go play video games. Alright!
The initial wave of excitement quickly soured, as all 3 major systems...
No more dislikes? No, you can get an add-on for that, guys, like an extension. You can still see it. Just gotta get the extension.
The expansion fell short of their goals. They would later be addressed in major patches, though players would have to wait nearly a year following their initial release. In response, monthly active users would start taking a dive, and in an attempt to bolster engagement metrics, the expansion would aim to rely on what many described to be an excessive amount of activities designed around daily and weekly timers.
Dailies. My champion, thank goodness you are here. Azeroth has become overrun with the 500 forms of daily busy work. Won't you do something to save us? Complain about daily quests for 1 minute. Ignore at least 5 angry comments. Resets daily. Plus 100 depression. And Radiant Azerite Core. Oh.
By the end of the expansion's lifespan, this would be the full list.
Yep.
Many would comment that the entire game at this point had devolved into a list of chores that you had a limited amount of time to complete, aimed to keep players in a gerbil-like routine of going down a checklist for their daily session.
It was true though. It was like an actual like checklist. Okay, let me log in. Okay, let me check where in the world I can get my things that can give me my rep for my things that I need, so I can get the other things, and I can log in again tomorrow and get the things again. It's literally like it's like an endless loop, you know?
Instead of feeling rewarded for their playtime and dedication, many would feel punished for missing sessions and question their reasons for playing to begin with. And just 2 months after release, Blizzard would suffer another devastating departure as co-founder Mike Morhaime announced that he was stepping down as company president, promoting then executive producer J. Allen Brack to take his place. More troubling still, these people weren't quitting game development, they were quitting Blizzard. Later in 2020, Morhaime would announce a new company, Dreamhaven, and under its umbrella were 2 studios, Moonshot Games and Secret Door, of which many former members of Blizzard would be employed. In its announcement, they would stress that the goal of the company would be to prioritize product quality and player experience over short-term financial pressures, a development mindset that many fans say Activision Blizzard had abandoned long ago.
I hope the Dreamhaven thing is going to be good. We haven't seen, like, you know, the games yet, obviously, but I don't think Dreamhaven has released anything. I think they have released, like, a trailer or something, but nothing, like, tangible, no, that you can, like, try. No.
Chris Metzen would later found Warchief Gaming, which is dedicated to developing worlds and tabletop experiences. And outside of World of Warcraft, the former Hearthstone director Ben Brode would launch the game studio Second Dinner. Ex-StarCraft 2 developers would join Frost Giant and work towards developing a new RTS, and Lightforge game was opened by former Blizzard engineer Matt Shimbari and would later partner with Dreamhaven. Morhaime would be just one of many longtime talent leaving the company in recent years, and his departure would be instrumental in what would later be known as brain drain afflicting the developer. Slowly but surely, the people who made Blizzard what they were departing. This rash of departures would be downplayed as ordinary for the world of game development, in that the games were more about the team rather than individual members. But internally, employees shared a different story. Rather that these people were irreplaceable mentors, and that they drew inspiration from each other, and that each departure would be accompanied by a negative, cascading effect to those left behind. And just months later, another co-founder, Frank Pierce, would be the next to announce his departure, leaving just Alan Adam as the last co-founder standing. Development with Classic was progressing steadily, and a release date for the summer of 2019 was announced. A new game within the Warcraft franchise was also revealed. Warcraft 3 Reforged would advertise fully remodeled characters and animations, as well as retuned maps.
As a person who loves Warcraft 3, I love Warcraft 3. I really, really do. This hurt, man. Oh, I hated it. Oh my, I pre-ordered it, dude. I got this shitty, like, stupid, like, what is it called, catapult mount in retail. Oh, I love Warcraft 3. It's one of my favorite games ever. I really do, but I pre-ordered it and I never even played it. It's such a disappointment, man.
And campaigns in this modern-day remaster, with the set release year of 2019.
Oh, no.
This would later be delayed to January 2020 in an official post, citing delays in development and the desire to retain a high-quality standard that the player base held them to. Though not pertaining to the World of Warcraft directly, but would transpire with the development of Warcraft 3 and other titles, revealed the priorities and development practices of Blizzard as a whole, and set the standard of how they would treat their community across all franchises, World of Warcraft included. This was also the BlizzCon where they announced a mobile Diablo game, which was met with
Don't you have
a less than desirable reception.
Don't you guys have
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
Well, that's a story for
Did they really say that? That is crazy. That the fact that they actually said that. Holy shit. Oh, imagine like the Diablo player base. I've been waiting for so long for something new. Like Diablo 3 as... And you get like Diablo Immortal and get like a slap on the wrist on the way out as well. Oh, let me hear that again. I want to hear that one more time.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
Well, that's a story.
It feels like high school frat, like Brad and Chad, like trying to shit on the nerds, right? Like, no, bro, don't you have the new iPhone or what? Like, oh, it's so bad, man. What were they thinking? Oh, God, it was horrible.
Story for another time. To make matters worse, the following years, although financially successful, would prove to be the most damaging to their reputation. Though reaching historic revenue earnings, treatment of their employees would become the focus of negative press. In February of 2019, 800 employees would be fired, many without warning, and were left crying in the parking lot. This is a trend that would continue through the following years of record-breaking profits, with massive layoffs and multi-million-dollar CEO bonuses following shortly after. In one instance, employees would be given gift cards to the games that they just got fired from working on their way out.
Yikes. Yikes. Oh my God. Oh, you're fired. Yeah, you don't have a job anymore. But here, have a gift card to a game that requires a subscription, by the way. Oh, imagine that, dude. That is so shameless.
Out. Hey, here's some Overwatch skins.
Oof.
You're fired, by the way. And in other cases, the amount of people fired would be underreported. Combined with the poor reception of the Battle for Azeroth, their reputation had quickly started to sour from that of a community-first industry innovator to one operated on greed, predatory business practices, and the cold treatment of their employees and even their player base. Little did everyone know, though, the worst was yet to come.
Oh, here we go. Oh my God, this as well. The prize pool, and they like none of it just went to any of the. Oh my God, this was so scummy. I remember this.
2008, they had hosted an esports event called the Arena World Championship, or AWC, where high-end competitive players would face off in a tournament-style competition of the game's arena mode for cash prizes, ranging from $120,000 since its inception in 2008 to $280,000 in 2018.
That's like nothing compared to other games. Like, you're like splitting this with your team and everything. Like, compared to like any other semi-big like esports game, this is nothing. When you think about how big WoW is, that's like very shameless. Like, very, very shameless.
For 2019, however, they had announced a special campaign where players would be able to contribute to the ever-growing prize pool. 2 new toys, the Transmorpher Beacon and some faction-themed fireworks, were made to be available in the in-game cash shop, and to encourage sales, 25% of the proceeds would contribute towards the prize pool of both the Arena World Championship and also the Mythic Dungeon International, stating that the support of the players would help take the WoW esports scene to the next level. They also assured that a minimum prize pool of $500,000 would be offered, split up evenly between the 2 events. Considering that all announcements used verbiage such as help or contribute, the player base had assumed that this $500,000 prize pool would be funded by Blizzard, as they had done for a decade prior, and that the proceeds of the toy sales would, well, contribute to the total, as stated. After the campaign had concluded, though, fans were dismayed to learn that they didn't help nor contribute, as Blizzard pocketed what they would usually put up and put the responsibility on funding the entirety of the prize pool on the player base, as confirmed by an AWC participant, Snuts.
So let's rephrase this. So people gave Blizzard so much money, Blizzard decided to give themselves even more.
Right. So they collected around $2.6 million, give or take.
2.6.
And instead of adding prize money for themselves, they just pocketed $2 million and decided to just use the money that the community gave us and pay for their tournament.
Both competitors and viewers expressed their anger, stating that they had felt deceived and that the good nature of those wishing to support the esports community of Blizzard were taken advantage of. Blizzard would never acknowledge the controversy, and the prize pools were funded solely by the crowdfunding campaign, and despite the self-proclaimed success in raising the funds, crowdfunding such as this would not be repeated for future tournaments, presumably due to the intense backlash that they received.
God damn. 2016. Oh my god.
World of Warcraft wasn't their only franchise that would be at the center of controversy, as soon after their Hearthstone division would attract the attention of national media.
Here's a story which just won't go away.
I forgot about this.
Activision Blizzard. It has suspended a gamer and taken his prize money away because he made comments supporting Hong Kong protesters.
The protests in Hong Kong were at their climax at this point. Having been a British colony until 1997, when sovereignty of the territory was returned to China, Hong Kong would retain a separate legal and economic system with basic human rights safeguarded, in contrast to other cities in China, which are heavily governed by the authoritarian central government. Though in March of 2019, a bill would be proposed that would allow extraditions of fugitives to mainland China, which infringed on these rare freedoms, and due to China's opaque legal system, would allow the prosecution of citizens for political purposes. Citizens held marches in protest, which quickly turned violent after they were fired upon with tear gas, rubber bullets, pepper spray, and even live rounds as the situation spiraled out of control. In October of the same year, a tournament competitor, Jung Naiwan, or Blitzchung, after a victory took out a face mask similar to those being worn by the Hong Kong protesters and voiced his support to them, quoted, "Liberate Hong Kong, the revolution of our times." The feed was quickly cut, and the following day, Blizzard announced that Blitzchung had been banned from competing further in the tournament, in addition to revoking the prize money that he had won up until that point, totaling $10,000. Additionally, he would be banned from competing for a full year, and the two casters interviewing Blitzchung at the time would also be fired. As a result, Activision Blizzard would swiftly come under heavy criticism, as many saw morality cast aside for vested financial interests. Players of another team, American University, would add their voices to the protest.
I can see it, they're holding up the
which was also quickly censored and condemned by Blizzard.
Spirit. And that is game WPI with the win. The winners
Similar to Blitzchung, they would also be banned from competing in future tournaments, this time for 6 months. Shortly after, then-President J. Allen Brack released a statement saying that the penalties were not appropriate and that Blitzchung's winnings would be reinstated to him, and that his ban would be reduced to 6 months down from 12, and also state that their business dealings with China had no influence on the initial penalties. Brack would open up the following BlizzCon with an apology to the mishandling of the situation, stating that their actions would speak louder than words.
But our actions are going to matter more than any of these words.
A phrase that the Blizzard community would quickly become very familiar with. In the same BlizzCon, the new expansion for World of Warcraft would also be revealed. Players would enter the Shadowlands and join factions called Covenants. Similar to the Order Halls in Legion, these would serve as a base of operations for players to conduct their campaign and also gain unique abilities and perks. They would also explore the Tower of Torghast, a randomized...
Oh, how excited was I for this goddamn... I can't wait for Torghast, guys, you know? I was actually genuinely hyped for that,
1 to 3 player dungeon crawl with powerful affixes to power up their characters, and upon completion, gain the ability to craft legendary armor pieces, similar in function to those of the Legion expansion, though following the poor reception of the Battle for Azeroth, many more would look at the reveal through a more critical lens. Though their current projects were met with mixed reactions, World of Warcraft Classic had seen its release in August of 2019 to surprising success. Initially holding only a handful of servers, it was quickly overwhelmed, and new servers were created to hold the surprising amount of people that had longed for the Azeroth of years long past. Upon launch, interest was so underestimated that queue times would balloon up to several hours, and even months following the release for some of the highest population servers. Some aspects of the game would age well, such as a renewed sense of community and a heavy focus on traditional RPG elements, and other aspects such as a solved and archaic raiding scene and an eventual stagnation of content would remain to be problem areas within the game, as well as botting. As the game grew in popularity, so too did third-party websites offering in-game items or services in exchange for real money, a practice that's against
last summer pre-COVID. Oh, that's true as well. Oh my god, yeah, I forgot about that.
Game's terms of service. These sites oftentimes use automated programs
the last summer
to obtain
before
this
COVID
currency,
as well,
and Blizzard would be ineffective in controlling them throughout the duration of Classic, even though they were relatively easy to spot by the players, as displayed many times by content creators within the community.
I found a warrior mob grinding in Tanaris having a bit of trouble getting to his target.
Cheating had always been, and continues to be, an area where Blizzard would perform poorly, even in the current version of the game, but due to the more fragile nature of the economy in World of Warcraft Classic and its community, it would have greater negative consequences. Though cheating was to remain a problem area, due to its traditional design and the absence of what many now deemed to be an overly intrusive cash shop, it proved to hold the attention of a wide player base consistently through its year-and-a-half run, though not every re-release was to be met with the same success.
Yep. Here we go again.
Warcraft 3 Reforged saw its release in the following January.
Just pour like some lemon into the wound as well. What about a little bit of salt too? Yeah. Good. Just reopen the wound. Let me hurt again.
Though delayed, as they ensured to maintain a high-quality standard, it was universally met with negative reviews, as players saw little polish with the remaster, citing a poor UI, copious bugs, a low frame rate, missing features from the original, and consistent crashes. The latter of these issues would take the spotlight in the competitive scene shortly after. In their very first major tournament, in a quarterfinal match between two top players, Moon and Thorzane, a crash occurred at a key moment. The score was 1-1, and Thorzane seemed to be on track to take the win, but suffered a disconnect mid-match.
Thorzane smells blood in the water. He's going in for the kill here. We have Banish ready. Mountain King was a little hurt. This is all buying time for the towers. We have no Breath of Fire, by the way. It is Drunken Haze, so big mischance on these Dragonhawks, and a disconnect. That fight was the most important one in this game yet.
The match would then be restarted, despite Thorzane's advantage, and he would once again retake control of the rematch, and once again suffered a disconnect.
He already has enough mana. I don't need a Blood Mage. I don't need you. You're benched. Once this... It looks like another drop.
He must be pissed. Like, you can't make this up, man. He must be absolutely pissed.
This happens. Oh, wow.
Imagine being in the lead and you disconnect. Okay, it can happen. Fair enough. Shit happens. But it happens twice. 2 times.
As Thorzane, I think I kind of like his position here in this game. Again, yeah.
Oh.
This is so frustrating.
The match would be replayed for a 3rd time, and Moon, having adapted to Thorzane's strategy at this point, was the one to take the lead and eliminated Thorzane, resulting in the forfeiture of the large prize pool he surely would have won twice. Though they are the most impactful, as they happen during a quarterfinal match, these would not be the only disconnects to occur in the tournament, as competitors in lower level brackets.
It's a strategy game, right? And now, they said he's gotten used to his strat, so like now he can obviously counterplay it, right?
would also become victim to random drops at key moments. Years later, an internal investigation would reveal that they knowingly released the game in an unfinished state, unwilling to delay it for a second time in fear of losing the pre-orders they had already amassed. It was also noted that the entire project was hamstrung by a low budget due to its low potential for being a big earner for the company.
Oh my
Internal
God.
sources would also share their struggles with exhaustion, anxiety, and depression for more than a year, and that their warnings of the game's unfinished state being largely ignored in order to make the tight release
You can't
schedule.
make this up, man.
Negative reviews continued at a steady pace, as did refunds, as players were less than impressed at the level of polish that they received compared to what was
Parody, yeah, Warcraft 3 refunded. I remember that.
promised. The classic game teams would be shut down, a new team now in their place, and in a bit of irony in a Bloomberg interview, a Blizzard spokesperson repeated the same failed promise made by Brack a few months prior, that their work and actions would speak louder than words. A delay was also announced with Shadowlands, this time from October to December, once more citing that extra polish is needed before a release would be made, and despite the struggles with the Battle for Azeroth, Blizzard proved
guy's
as
happy.
they have many times.
Oh no,
Selling copies wasn't the problem, as Shadowlands sold an impressive 3.7 million copies on launch day alone. Much like its predecessor though, not long after the initial launch, the expansion's major features would be the focus of criticism. The Tower of Torghast, or Chorghast as players soon likened it to, suffered the same fate as island expeditions from the Battle for Azeroth, and quickly became repetitive, as with most systems that reset on a weekly timer. As for the expansion's high-level zone, the Maw, due to the player's inability to mount, it was seen to be unnecessarily frustrating to navigate, and formulaic to other such zones released in the past. By now, players were noticing a pattern of high-level zones with new reputations and excessive daily timers such as quests, rare elite enemies, and treasure chests. As for Covenants, they received a mixed reaction, with some praising the unique abilities and aesthetics obtained from choosing a specific faction, and others condemning them for being unbalanced, thus burdening them with regret if they had made a poor choice.
Some people's classes, 40% of their damage is just their Covenant ability. They're all
former WoW YouTube channel.
Over the place. They're a mess.
Some would also take issue with being locked out of a large amount of content offered from the other Covenants, as choosing one meant exclusion.
When I met Preach, right? I met Preach one time. The first thing he said to me when we met and we shook hands and stuff was like, "Oh, you're that guy with the big dent, aren't you?" That's literally the first thing he said to me when we met. You're that guy with the big dent, aren't you? Yeah, it's not even that bad. Like, there's not even a dent. Like, what do you mean? Oh my god. He's a nice guy though. I really like Preach. I really, really like him, man. Like, god damn it, man.
Including 3 others.
It's not even that bad. Like, come on, dude. How is that the thing I'm known for? What about my god gaming skills or my extreme muscle? You know, like there's plenty of other things.
Was available should they feel the need to switch. For better or for worse, Blizzard would stand their ground at launch.
That's how it is.
Stated that they had the ability to pull the ripcord to give players more freedom with Covenants should the systems be received poorly. This comment would start a movement called Pull the Ripcord, which they would come back to nearly a year later.
Go on.
Let's see. I am thirsty. Let me take some gulps. Wait, this is not beer. Let me read the label. Do not touch breast milk. Well, good enough. I should share it with my co-workers. 777 Vigintillion 707.
Thank you. Okay.
In patch 9.1.5. As for the story, many would see it as even worse than that of the Battle for Azeroth expansion. The plot somehow became even more confusing and contradictory, requiring external literature to follow along, as even YouTube channels dedicated to the lore of the game had difficulty piecing together the disorienting storylines. They would not be shy in expressing their frustration.
How many books are you gonna fucking get out of me? How much money am I gonna pay before I can finally explain the lore to the people that want to know about it to the degree that it's actually comprehensible?
I think his channel was sort of small before this. When he moved to Final Fantasy, he like blew up because this clip was like got really like massive. Like he's a massive like Final Fantasy guy now.
I will never serve.
Major cutscenes would continue to be unlisted on their YouTube channel in response to the negative reception. Only time will tell of the fate of the Shadowlands, if it'll go down as a good or a bad expansion, but players are quick to note the similarities between it and the Battle for Azeroth, where the major systems are released in a poorly implemented state, only to be addressed in patches several months later, and many at this point would take notice to a rising contender within the MMO genre. Over the years, Final Fantasy XIV would slowly but surely gain a sizable subscriber base. Following a failed initial launch in 2010, after listening to player feedback, the MMO was remade in many ways and relaunched in 2013. It would see steady growth due to these improvements, and also the shortcomings of the World of Warcraft. And as players became increasingly embittered with Shadowlands, they started migrating over, including major streamers and YouTube channels, creating more tension within the already tribalistic MMO community, as players, content creators, and even employees would take shots at each other over social media. Though subscriptions remained to be hidden, third-party analytics began favoring...
Yeah, Final Fantasy is massive now. I still haven't really like given it a good whirl. I have the amount of people that has recommended me to play Final Fantasy a lot is it's a lot of people, man. We'll see, but I've had a lot of people recommend it to me a lot of times for sure to play Final Fantasy. So we'll see, boys.
Final Fantasy XIV to be the most active MMO, with Blizzard even sending out surveys attempting to gauge interest in it. For the first time in many years...
Maybe at some point we'll give it a try. We'll see.
It was becoming clear to many that the World of Warcraft was losing its hold on the genre.
Oh god, Dark Portal Pass.
At BlizzCon 2020, the next step for Classic was announced, and as many expected, players would begin their second journey into the Outland in the Burning Crusade Classic. Much like the base game, the first expansion would be recreated closely to its original run in 2007, but with one exception, the addition of a major cash shop element, the character boost.
We are going to offer a level 58 boost for purchase, but it does come with some restrictions. So it's going to be one per account. It's not going to be usable on Blood Elf or Draenei. It'll have some...
For many players, the feeling of anticipation was quickly replaced by that of betrayal, as character boosts, among other paid services such as the WoW token, were specifically stated not to be released in the classic version of the game, as they didn't exist back then. Ultimately, the character boost would be a one-use service, bringing any character to level 58, and was offered in a bundle.
What do you mean one-use service? You could just make a new account. You don't have to buy the game. You could just make a new account, activate the sub, and boost another
bundled package that also included...
It's literally perfect for...
other digital rewards, including a mount, a pet, and a toy. Ignoring the fact that they had lied, Blizzard would pitch that it was intended for new players who didn't have the time to level.
There's a lot of my friends, for example, who maybe didn't really play Classic when it first came out, right? And so now they're behind, and they're interested in playing the Burning Crusade. We want to make sure that those people are served too. And one of the ways we...
This is the issue, man. Like, you're trying to please everybody, but you're not pleasing everybody by making them skip half the game. You know, just play the game then. What do you mean you're late? You can just play the game. You know?
We could do that is provide a boost to people who are interested in coming back.
Though this was contradicted in the fact that the service was purchasable by everyone, even by those who already had high-level character.
They're just trying to get money. It's not like, you know, if you're late to the game, like, you got lots of more stuff to do, right? I don't know.
In addition to the boost, Blizzard had also announced Classic-era servers for those who preferred the vanilla state of the game, but this too would be met with controversy, as there would be a $35 charge in transferring characters to both...
This was a yikes, man. Oh, that was a yikes. I remember they said that, like, Classic era was like a like an ode to the community, where like if you want to retain your character, you can do that. Oh, by the way, you have to pay $35 for it. Like, that was like so bad, dude. Like,
both states of the games, as characters that players spent the past year and a half leveling and gearing would be dangled in front of their faces in the login screen behind the paywall. The outrage was immediate, and Blizzard would respond by lowering the charge to $15, down from $35.
It should have just
As
been
for
free.
the boost, the community was quick to point out the dangers of releasing such a service, such as the abandonment of the old world, and how bots, which had already been a major problem in Classic, would become empowered with the ability to skip towards the end game, making them capable of farming higher level materials almost immediately, thus having a greater negative effect than they previously had. Many also warned that accepting a service as major as this would lead Classic down the same familiar road, and that it would suffer the same fate of the game that spawned its existence to begin with, in addition to creating an unfair, paid element that let players pay to skip what other players had already worked for. Though these worries would ultimately be ignored, and a level boost was released despite the backlash. Footage of boosted characters botting started to appear immediately.
Literally every single bot without fail was a level 58 boosted character. The limitation of 1 per account for bots is completely irrelevant. As expected for them, it's just a huge time save from actually having to level.
And many saw an old world now abandoned, as the boost now loaded the majority of the player base directly into the Outland. One of the core design philosophies of Classic had been betrayed. A large portion of the player base at this point were refugees from current World of Warcraft, due to in large part of the overzealous cash shop, which was promised to be absent in the recreation. Shortly after, a WoW token with a green Burning Crusade background was data mined, and players took to the forums, creating numerous threads asking for confirmation whether this was planned to be released in Classic, and once more, were simply ignored. Still to this day, several months later, there's no confirmation, yes or no, of their plans to implement it into the game. This betrayal proved to be the final straw for many of the player base, including the highly intelligent, not monotone, and physically attractive YouTube user Madseason Show, whom after 16 years playing and 7 years on YouTube...
I'm laughing, but this is sad. Like, I'm laughing because he's making it funny, but it is sad. Like, seeing a big WoW centered, like, you know, content creator quit WoW content creation is, it sucks, right? Like Madseason, Preach, Savix quit, like, you know, Pyromancer, I guess Asmongold to a certain degree as well has, I mean, he's not quit WoW. I don't think he can ever really quit WoW. He's still farming, like, you know, all the things on his characters, but like mainly for his stream content too, right? Like, it's scary, right? And it's like, okay, goddamn, you know what I mean?
Had announced his retirement. The heart and soul now ripped away once more, Classic's population began to wane drastically, and the remaining players would comment on the second foray into the Outland becoming more and more empty with each passing day. Some of those who remained chose to rebel by targeting other players who had purchased the level boost bundle by performing an in-game emote /spit on anyone seen riding the deluxe edition mount. In response, Blizzard disabled the emote when
they made a weak aura for spitting on people. That shit's so funny. It's so funny. Like, oh god.
Getting another player.
Alright, let's see if we can spit on someone.
That's like the WoW, like, oh god. Spit on me, daddy. Like, wow. Okay, why did I read that?
Forum threads expressing concern with Classic's future were ultimately ignored, but to a community that acted against their interests, Blizzard's response would be immediate and clear. It was revealed later that Omar Gonzalez, who was one of the few responsible for taking action and making the Classic recreation a reality, had silently
thank you for the prime.
taken leave from Blizzard to join Secret Door under Dreamhaven, contributing to the ever-growing list of people who didn't quit developing games, but rather quit developing games for Blizzard Entertainment. Not long after, Jeff Kaplan, a 20-year veteran of Blizzard and director of Overwatch, announced his departure. This news would come as a surprise to the community, as the sequel to Overwatch, Overwatch 2, was still in development. Kaplan himself had gained the reputation as a leader and wholly passionate about his craft, so to leave a project before even seeing its release came off as abnormal, and many feared that something was deeply wrong with Blizzard behind closed doors. And prior to this, another industry veteran since its release in 2004, Alex Afrasiabi, would also quietly drop from the company in June of 2020. The manner of which he moved on, however, was also abnormal. As had been customary with the more recognized veterans of the company taking their leave, there was no farewell post, nor even an acknowledgement by Blizzard, though the true reason for his departure would soon become clear.
Oh god. Here we go.
Cube crawls in which male employees apparently drink a lot of alcohol as they crawl through their way through the cubicles, often engaging in inappropriate behavior towards female employees. The agency is saying it seeks, among other remedies.
On July 23rd, 2021, Activision Blizzard once again became the center of national news, as the world would learn the details of a 2-year investigation and lawsuit by the state of California of continuous sexual misconduct and discrimination of their employees. The investigation alleges that female employees in particular were underpaid and subjected to regular sexual harassment by coworkers and superiors. In the report, it was revealed that one employee ultimately committed suicide during a company vacation. This would occur after pictures of her vagina had allegedly been passed around a company party. The investigation also described cube crawls, where employees would become intoxicated and prowl to the workplace, subjecting coworkers to unwanted sexual advances, lewd behavior, and make inappropriate comments about rape and other intrusive or demeaning behavior.
Jeez, man.
The news shocked the Blizzard community and served as the final straw for many, as players and content creators began to migrate away, favoring other MMOs such as Final Fantasy XIV. Activision Blizzard's response would be swift and attempted to mitigate the allegations, stating that the DFEH, the plaintiff in the lawsuit, had distorted their claims and had rushed to file an inaccurate complaint, and that they were sickened and found the manner of which they investigated and reported to be reprehensible, referring specifically that the employee's suicide had no bearing on the case. The response was quickly deemed tone-deaf by onlookers and employees alike, who staged a walkout in protest of the allegations and the cold response by their employer. Shortly after, Activision CEO Bobby Kotick also denounced the response, stating that it was tone-deaf and that fair and respectful treatment in the workplace was of the utmost importance. Not long after, he would hire a firm made famous for union busting for Amazon to investigate their HR practices.
Well, it's put up like all of this, like the past almost an hour of this video has just been more and more stuff, man.
Months later, it was revealed that
this has to be the longest video I've ever watched on stream. We're almost done, boys. We got like 11 minutes left.
It was he who had originally drafted the initial response, and having another executive sign it in her name, that is the very same one that he denounced. It was also revealed that he had prior knowledge of several sexual assault cases in the workplace and settling them out of court and failing to make them public. In one instance, he threatened the life of one of his assistants. In response of this news being made public, he would reiterate his commitment to the safety and equality of his employees.
Anyone who doubts my conviction to be the most welcoming and inclusive workplace doesn't really appreciate how important this is to me.
In August, the DFEH accused Activision Blizzard of destroying documents relevant to the investigation in violation of their legal obligation to not tamper with evidence of an ongoing lawsuit, though this claim would be quickly denied by an Activision Blizzard spokesperson. Pictures and conversations relating to the Cosby Suite were also leaked. The nickname for Afrasiabi's hotel room from BlizzCon 2013, after the former comedian Bill Cosby, who had at that point faced multiple accusations of date rape. In an internal email, President J. Allen Brack stated his respect and care for equal treatment, and that Gloria Steinem, a well-known activist for women's rights, was a revered name in his household, having failed to grind the reputation to reach exalted.
Oh god. Gloria Steinem, the classic community hated, whale fanboys exalted, shareholders friendly. Oh no!
Despite being human and having the diplomacy racial. What a casual. The response wasn't received very well for some reason, and shortly after, he would step down as president, ending his near 3-year tenure, and was replaced with a two-person team, Jen O'Neill and Mike Ybarra, the former of whom would announce her departure just 3 months later, stating in an email to Activision's legal team of her lack of faith of their ability to change, and that she herself faced sexual harassment earlier in her career at Activision. She also revealed that she was being paid less than her co-leader, and that although equal pay was negotiated by both she and Mike Ybarra, it was only offered to her after she announced her resignation. She also described attending a 2007 party with Bobby Kotick, where scantily clad women danced on stripper poles.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go build my own
game dev studio
with blackjack and hookers.
As for Mike Ybarra, he would quickly come under controversy not long after his new position for a tweet advertising selling raid carries for gold. While this isn't against the game's terms of service, it remains to be a controversial point within the World of Warcraft community, as it edges the line of pay-to-win due to the player's ability to purchase gold with real money. As details of the investigation unfolded, many employees would quit or be fired, including senior game designer Jonathan LeCraft, the lead level designer of Diablo 4, a level designer of World of Warcraft, as well as the inspiration for the Overwatch character, Jesse McCree, and Diablo 4's game director, Luis Barriga, was also revealed to no longer be a part of Blizzard, leaving the upcoming action RPG without 2 critical leaders in the middle of its development. In response to McCree's involvement in the scandal, it was announced that the character McCree would be renamed, and that once again, actions would speak louder than words. Blizzard at this point would also begin a series of in-game changes, such as removing items and references they deemed to be inappropriate.
Dude, what's so wrong with? I don't know. Hey, I don't know why this was needed. I'm not gonna lie. Like I think at the end of the day, I'm not too sure if that's gonna fix it. But then again, it's we all see things differently, I guess. Some people see some park milkers, some people see some bowl of fruits. You never know.
Inappropriate given the circumstances, such as changing pictures of women into fruit. In-game joke emotes that were deemed to be highly controversial would also be removed. If there are any children in the room right now, I advise you at this point to cover their ears.
To fart in the tub.
Amidst the lawsuit, as tensions were at an all-time high, a senior systems designer of World of Warcraft revealed that almost no work is being done as the lawsuit was unfolding. This sparked outrage among the player base as they learned that they were paying for content that was no longer being developed in an expansion which had already seen updates at a sluggish pace. In response to the backlash, a senior game producer labeled those complaining as part of the problem, as employees continued lashing out and placing blame on their players and community figures. Blizzard would see a major restructuring of their teams during this time, as these employees
make that a dono
bit.
That could be my new sub sound, or like my new donation sound.
Were fired, many of which holding important positions in games that were in mid-development, causing major delays in production. In November of 2021, it was revealed by Blizzard Chief Financial Officer Armin Zerza that the company isn't planning to include both Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 in their 2022 financial outlook report, indicating that neither release will see their debut in all of 2022 due to delays in development. As a result, financially, they would suffer their worst loss in 13 years, as stock prices fell by more than 14% in a single day, bringing its year-to-date losses to 25%.
That is stonks. He bought, dip it, dump it. Oh my god.
In December, employees revealed suspicions that their breast milk was being stolen. Nursing mothers would label and store packages of breast milk in the break room refrigerator, and when retrieving it later, would find that some or all of the milk would be missing, while other items in the refrigerator would remain undisturbed. Though as of this video, no evidence exists of the alleged protein-rich caper. When reached out for comment...
That's just fucking weird, man. Like, that's just fucking weird, man. Like... I don't know what to say.
An Activision Blizzard spokesperson replied, stating that there's no use crying over spilt milk. Speaking of milking, Blizzard would also increase focus on microtransaction offers, including mounts, pets, and cosmetic outfits, often seen to be vastly superior to
This doesn't even look like a WoW mount, man. It looks like they're trying to cater to like the Final Fantasy community and steal take back the WoW frogs that's gone to Final Fantasy. It's like, oh, I heard you guys like Final Fantasy. This is what the mounts look like, right? Come back. It's like, oi, oi, oi.
Those acquirable in-game. Their prices would also be criticized, as their highest package would demand a price tag of $55.
Some of these times where they come up with these, like, you know, they have like a major scandal and they come up with like some new store mounts or something. It's so shameless, man.
That of a full AAA release, as onlookers reacted with awe at the lack of awareness or care that Blizzard showed to its community and image. As of this video, the results of the lawsuit are pending, but regardless of the outcome, it'll surely stand out as one of the darkest moments in the company's history.
True.
One that's becoming increasingly difficult to break out of, as scrutiny remains to be at an all-time high due to the destroyed trust between they and their community. As a result, a situation has been created where any flinch, positive or negative, is met with dominating pessimism.
Oh dear.
Employees daily suffer abuse, not only from the outside, but as recently discovered, also from the inside. Today, they stare down the seemingly insurmountable task of repairing the damage caused to their relationship with their community, with each passing day, their environment representing a battlefield more so than that of a game development studio. While this itself is an unfair situation, many deem it a consequence of casting aside the goodwill of their player base consistently over the course of 3 tumultuous years. In the midst of the scandal, it was announced that BlizzCon was cancelled for the year of 2022, and that it would see a major restructuring if and when it returns. Initially, a heavily community-focused innovator with franchises that redefine genres, now leaves behind a sullied and controversial legacy in one of the most jarring and unforeseen falls in game development history. Quarterly reports show a consistent downward trend of active users, but at the same time, record-breaking revenue as patience and goodwill are continuously traded away for short-term financial profit. Just as how it breathed life into the genre with its birth in 2004, so too does it with its decline in the modern year. Its fall giving rise to a new generation of MMOs, eager to claim the crown it once wore with pride and ambition. As players, community figures, and employees depart in record numbers, a particularly iconic phrase of theirs is seen to be more and more prophetic with each passing day. No king rules forever.
Dude. Man.
We are going to offer a level 58 boost for purchase, but it does come with some restrictions. So it's going to be 1 per account. It's not going to be usable on Blood Elf or
What the fuck?
Hey, boss, now that you're done with your video game, and I don't mean to rush you or nothing, but we got a lot of people waiting to be sentenced to their eternal afterlife.
Send them in.
The state of California is suing video game company Activision Blizzard for sexual harassment and discrimination.
They basically suspended and took away $10,000 and his prize money.
Anyone who doubts my conviction to be the most welcoming and inclusive workplace doesn't really appreciate how important this is to me.
I don't want to look like a scene.
We failed. I see the people saying that you don't get the ending. I think the ending is supposed to show like the chaos and the madness and like, you know, the fall from grace that's like occurring within Madseason and like him as a player and then and the company as well, right? Because there's a lot of chaotic stuff going on and stuff like that.
And for that,
I think that's what it is.
I'm sorry. I accept accountability.
And the community is full of a bunch of broken-hearted people who feel alone and are now feeling weird because they're stuck between a weird spot of supporting the company that makes the game and not wanting to support these weird fucking ass grabbers.
Interestingly, the board of directors of Activision rallying to Mr. Kodak's side almost immediately.
At last, you lose forever, my son. I see only darkness before me.
Damn. That whole, like, Wrath ICC cinematic is so fitting, man. Damn!
I am truly grateful.
Damn, what a video, man. That was a 2-hour long video, boys. Jesus Christ, man. A lot of the points he did really made sense, man. That was very, very interesting to watch. Everybody who watched, thank you very much. If you watched all the way to the end with me from the beginning, big nice. That was a long video, but I really liked it. I thought it was gonna get very, very repetitive or like very like I would lose interest, but I actually was interested the entire video. I'll link it in the chat, guys. Go give it a like. Go give the video a little like if you would like. I thought it was amazing. Madseason makes amazing videos. I don't know if this is his last video for WoW, but what do we see here? It's been a while. I wanted to have this out by the holidays. See you in another 5 months. If you missed me, I'm uploading some stuff to my alternate channel, Madseason Show. Thanks for the 7+ years of support and Merry Christmas. Madseason Show. Oh, he's doing a Dark Souls playthrough. What? That's so cool. Yo, I'll link his channel as well. Wait, really? That is awesome.
What's up, bros? What's up?
Here's a PewDiePie! Yo, that's awesome.
Okay, there's our actual weapon.
For some reason, this gives me like really old YouTube vibes. Hearing like the no cam, like chill talking, like...
Hang on.
God, I love Dark Souls, by the way. I love it. Guys, when Elden Ring comes out, we are playing Elden Ring on stream. We're doing a full playthrough. I'm gonna say that once more, okay? But awesome video. Really, really, really amazing. God damn. He had some really interesting and good points. I would definitely say so for sure. Like, that was amazing watching with you guys. So thank you guys so much if you stuck around all the way through this.